There's they're saying that the Carolina Panthers are legitimate suitors for Cincinnati Bengals Pro Bowl pass rusher Trey Hendrickson. Scale of 1 to 10, how hard are we laughing at the prospect of this? It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Welcome to you, the 31 Tolos who are already streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. We appreciate you jumping in there right out of the gate. You know what Tolo means. It means turn it on and leave it on. You turn it on as soon as the show starts, and you stay with us throughout the entirety, Cole. But how about that? The Carolina Panthers, along with the Colts and the Browns, currently their names keep getting tossed around as a possibility for teams that may go after Trey Hendrickson.
You know, it's funny, Diesel, when you hear reports like this in the NFL, not saying the reports can't be true, but maybe reports pertaining to other teams can be true. But I will tell you this, I always feel as if reports pertaining to my team never come true. So I've almost just like dismissed all these reports, right? Because they never actually happen. However, like I said, big part of this, it's not pertaining to the Dallas Cowboys. So you know what? There's some competence there. It's the Carolina Panthers. I don't know how much more competence, but there is some confidence with Dan Morgan. It sounds great. It sounds really, really sexy. Like, you're not talking about a guy that's going to bring in and automatically win a Super Bowl, but Diesel, you talk about a guy that you do bring in, and all of a sudden your defense is upgraded in a tremendous fashion. I mean, it gets me excited just thinking, and I'm not even a Panthers fan.
What's funny about this, Cole, is as I was starting to think like, all right, who might actually go after a guy like Trey Hendrickson, a 30-year-old guy who's been a Pro Bowler the last 4 years in a row. I thought the Dallas Cowboys would be a fine option for Trey Hendrickson, especially if this Micah Parsons deal breaks down and he ends up going to another team. That's a team that's pretty good, not great, but pretty good, and could push in the playoffs year after year after year. Trey Hendrickson would be a fine replacement for a guy like Micah Parsons. But as reported on NFL.com over the weekend, trade talks between Trey and the Bengals are, quote, at an impasse, and Cincinnati is listening to trade offers. Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero had the initial reporting on this. Here's the thing. It's going to be expensive. Whoever goes out and deals for Trey Hendrickson, it's going to be expensive. Sure. And money is not necessarily the number one thing that the Bengals want. They want some additional players, a young defensive player. They want another player. I think it's the demand is a first-round draft pick next year in 2026 if they get rid of Trey Hendrickson. And so for those reasons, Cole, I'm not really sure that the Carolina Panthers are interested in this trade. Sure, a guy like Trey Hendrickson instantaneously upgrades the pass rush for the Carolina Panthers, but everything else about their defense sucks. So adding a guy like Trey, adding an elite pass rusher doesn't do a ton for you. And it really kind of flips over the apple cart of everything that Dan Morgan and co are trying to do. It kind of flies in the face of everything they're trying to do, which is get young, build through the draft, do things that way, the old-fashioned way. And I don't think Carolina should even entertain this offer.
So it's interesting. When I decide whether or not it's a good fit, here's what I do. The first thing I do, Diesel, is I go back to what's the original problem with this current team, right? So we know Cincinnati, they're seeking, now that they're in this stalemate, they're seeking draft capital. They're also targeting defensive players and a potential deal for Trey Hendrickson, according to teams that have inquired about Trey. Diana Rossini from The Athletic revealed more about the Bengals and what they're looking for. Again, going back to a younger defensive player, a 2026 first-round pick, a player that maybe not necessarily just a defensive guy. I think they would be open to exploring offensive well. But the first-rounder might be enough to give the Panthers pause, because you look at what the Panthers have done in the last 5 years, already giving up good draft capital. How much more, Diesel, how much more good draft capital are you willing to give up if you're Dan Morgan? So essentially, the way I look at it is, if they come to you right now and said, okay, we're willing to work a deal with you, we can give you Trey, but it's going to require a first rounder. I believe, I don't have any inside knowledge on this, but I do believe Dan Morgan, that's probably where
a bridge too far.
It might be a little too far.
Especially when we consider they just got out of this trade with the Bears.
That's what I'm saying,
them
man.
So much.
They've already been heartbroken.
So far
right?
behind the 8 ball. And look, again, Trey Hendrickson is elite, but he's also 30, right? And so 30-year-old dudes are pretty close to retirement at the defensive end position. There's no reason to believe that Trey Hendrickson would give you 5-6 quality years at the end of his career. It's just not likely that that's going to happen. So Trey Hendrickson probably wants to go to a team that's already pretty good. The Bengals have been really good in his tenure being there in Cincinnati. Probably wants to go somewhere good, right? That's at least a playoff caliber team that he may be able to take them on to the next step. So what's funny is the teams that were listed, the Browns, the Colts, and the Panthers, none of those teams actually fit that bill.
So here's I agree with you, but the problem is you've got to go find the Panthers from 5 years ago, right? If you're Cincinnati, you're right. Those teams necessarily don't make a tremendous amount of sense when it comes to giving up a first-round guy. So you've got to go find Diesel. If you're Cincinnati, you've got to go find a Panthers team 5 years ago, 3-4 years ago, that's kind of in a similar spot, right? That's at rock bottom. So when you think teams in the NFL in rock bottom, bam, Browns come to mind, right? That's just part of it.
Yeah, but that's every year. That's the problem with being the Browns. That's the problem with being the color of dirt. You're always at rock bottom.
And the Browns have already given up way too much over the years. They've already made horrendous deals with guys like Deshaun Watson. They have already done enough stupid deals that I don't even know if they're allotted any more stupid deals from Roger Goodell. The bottom line is, who do you view in the NFL right now as a team that's willing to say, you know what, for that guy, maybe this is not being talked about. I'm just thinking in my head, a Buffalo-like team that's already right there, Diesel. I mean, right on the edge. They could say, okay, you know what, we're going to push all of our chips in, and we're going to take it to the bank. Trey Hendrickson's going to be what pushes us to a Super Bowl. To me, it doesn't make sense for a franchise like the Panthers to dig themselves in a deep hole that so let's say a not-so-good team goes after them. A not-so-good team, Diesel, giving up a first-round pick, you're digging yourself in a deep hole. Are you going to be able to climb out of that hole with Trey Hendrickson? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a team like the Bills. They were middle of the pack last year when it came to sacks. They were right there in between, and I had it on screen and I just lost it there. I got to find it again, but they were kind of right there in the middle when it came to getting the most sacks. The teams that were down at the bottom, the Broncos, the Ravens, the Cowboys, they got a lot of sacks, a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks last year. And then you get down to a team like Buffalo, you're talking about 39 sacks as compared to the league leading 63 sacks from the Broncos last year. So yeah, the Detroit Lions would be a great choice. The Buffalo Bills would be a great choice.
Lions would make sense to me.
I look at the Dallas Cowboys again with this Micah Parsons situation. If that continues to sour, Trey Hendrickson, I think, would be a great replacement. Plus, Jerry Jones loves having 30-year-olds around because it makes him feel not quite so old.
My whole thing is with the Cowboys, though, like, yeah, I get you're having to replace Micah, and Trey, like, would be the best replacement ever in terms of replacing Micah Parsons, but you're already in a stalemate with Micah. Why do I believe that you, as an incompetent organization, are going to be able to work out a deal with Trey Hendrickson, who's also in a stalemate with his team?
What is, do you know off the top of your head what Micah is asking for
too much.
A year?
No, not the exact dollar figure. It's too much. You and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and the exact dollar figure, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's a lot. It's significantly more, obviously, than he's making. But I don't know. A bargain for a bargain, a holdout for a holdout, a guy who's not happy for a guy who's not happy. You know, that's the risk there. So it's intriguing.
Well, Micah's looking for some reports here are saying he's looking for between $40 and $45 million a year, which is the tippy
40
top.
to 45?
Yeah, that's the tippy top of that market right now. As funny as just a couple of months ago, Max Crosby signed what was at the time the most lucrative per season deal for a defensive end at $35 million a year. That's what the Raiders. Since then, Cole, like 3 or 4 players have beaten that, and not just beaten it, but really sailed past it. TJ Watt, who, by the way, is also 30 years old, he got $41 million a year from the Steelers. Myles Garrett, Danielle Hunter with the Texans and the Browns, respectively. Those guys also got paid. Trey Hendrickson entering the final year of his deal with Cincinnati. He's averaging $21 million. So you're talking about a guy who's really seeking to double his salary.
So here's what I don't understand about this whole process, Diesel. And again, I'm not an NFL GM. I never have been, FYI, newsflash for you. But here's what I don't understand. It's the same frustrations I have with Dallas. Why do NFL GMs wait so long in the process to get these deals done? Just like Jerry's done, just like Cincinnati's done. There are reports out there, Diesel. There are reports out there that if they would have moved on Hendrickson in the spring, they wouldn't be in the situation that they're in.
Well,
right?
Especially when you wait this long and you see the market shift on you the way that it has for elite defensive ends. All of a sudden you go from, we could have paid him 30, 35, whatever, and made him happy 4 months ago, to now, to make him happy, we're going to have to pay him 42, 43. Yeah. So you're costing yourself $8 million by sitting on your ass and dragging your feet. So, maybe a team like Miami would go after him. Maybe I'm just looking down sort of at the bottom of the NFL and teams that I know haven't really gone hardcore into defensive ends. I mean, I would say Atlanta, but they've just got a lot of defensive guys in this past draft. To me, it's got to be Detroit. That's the lowest end as far as the number of sacks they produced last year. That was also a really good team. So you start with somewhere around 20th in the league without doing the math here or counting. You go up from there. You got Detroit, the Raiders, the Rams, Saints. God, if he went to the Kansas City Chiefs, wouldn't that drive everybody absolutely wild? I don't know if they've got the cap space. The Bills, the Steelers. I mean, imagine having a TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson backfield or defensive end coming at you on either side. That's a scary thing. I think Seattle could also be a really good spot for him. They finished second in the NFC West last year, and they're not particularly strong on pass rush either. They're kind of sitting in that. I mean, they're right on the outside edge of the top 10 area, but still not even close to what the Denver Broncos achieved last year.
What I do find interesting, Diesel, is NFL insider Jordan Schultz reported Sunday. This report came out yesterday that the Carolina Panthers are among the top 3 teams, right, who have shown interest. Schultz also added in his report that Carolina's 2 biggest competitors, going back to what you said at the very beginning, are the Browns and the Colts. The Browns and the Colts aren't anywhere near, and I'm not saying the Panthers are, but the Browns and the Colts aren't anywhere near being successful. I don't know why I view Trey Hendrickson differently than a lot of these GMs do, but here's the reality of it. I view him way different. It looks as if the Panthers, and I hate to throw them into that group, but the Panthers, the Colts, and the Browns view Trey Hendrickson as a guy that we've got to get this guy in order to build our franchise the right way. I just don't view him that way. I view him as a guy that a team like a Buffalo, like you said with Detroit, I like that a lot, that they look at this as an opportunity to kind of put themselves over the edge, a team that hasn't been able to get over the hump. I just don't know, like, as good as Trey Hendrickson is, to come to Carolina, to come to Cleveland or Indianapolis, how much better will that team be? I think of those 3, Carolina's the best fit. I really do. I'm not just saying that because they're here in our audience. Of those 3 that Schultz reported on, I think the Panthers are the clear and obvious fit. They actually have a little bit of direction because of what Dan Morgan's done. And
yeah, but they're a team that needs money badly, and if they
don't have it right now,
maybe
next year,
right? Maybe. I mean, you look at the next couple of years of where their salary cap is going to go, and they're going to build to a top half team when it comes to the amount of salary cap money they have available, but they've achieved that, Cole, by getting rid of all the really terrible decisions that the previous regime put in place.
Yeah, it's going to take time. I think in a dream world, the Panthers would absolutely love to have Trey Hendrickson in Charlotte, but ultimately we don't deal in a dream world. I think Atlanta's a suitor as well. I think Atlanta, I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Hendrickson does go to the NFC South, whether it's Carolina or Atlanta. You look at Atlanta as a team that, they need a guy like this. Their defense, their pass rush was absolutely horrible in 2024. But guess what the Falcons don't have? The Falcons don't have a 2026 first rounder. And we know that the Bengals are asking that. They're looking for a young defensive player. The Falcons don't really have that young defensive player. So while a lot of these teams would love to have them, you've got to have guys that you can trade. And you also, Diesel, not only do you have to have guys you can give up, you have to have guys that you can, or you have to have the ability to re-sign Trey Hendrickson. Think about that. We hadn't talked about that.
Right.
3-4 years from now.
Salary cap's not there. They're not going to have room to re-sign him. Sure, you may be able to rent him for a year or two, but that's about, and he's not going to want to sign a multi-year deal with Carolina if they're not going to give him at least $35 million a year where the market was set earlier this year.
The only thing I'd say is with the Panthers losing Nick Scourton, right, on the defensive line, maybe, just maybe, that opens up a little bit of flexibility. I would love to be a fly on the wall in the meetings and conversations that are being had by Dan Morgan and David Tepper, because I will say this, for all the criticism Dave Tepper's gotten, Dave Tepper, he's a businessman. He does understand business, not from a football standpoint yet. Maybe he does now. But Dan Morgan, I think Dan Morgan and Dave Tepper could be a really good pair with Dan Morgan's football side and Dave Tepper's business side if they somehow could.
But if you're Carolina, and again, this is not necessarily what the Bengals have said they want. They're not saying that they need to get a pass rusher back. But if you're the Bengals, would you want a guy like Derek Brown who's coming off of an injury-filled season, a guy that's only had 8 sacks in his entire 4 healthy season career? If they were going to go apples to apples and go after a defensive end, pass rusher kind of guy, it's either Derek Brown or they've got to be really high on Princely Umanmielen as a rookie. And you don't trade a Pro Bowler for a rookie. You just don't.
The bottom line is the asking price right now, so late in the game, so high. Will somebody take the bait? Maybe. But I'll tell you this.
I mean, if you're Trey, what are you going to do? Sit out for the season?
Well, it's in the same spot Micah's in. They're both in the same spot. Trey and Micah both. The problem is the asking price is so high. They're literally having to have that you laugh about it, that they're having to have that conversation right now. Am I going to just sit out? I'm not going to play. I've got to get a deal done. I'm not going to play. That would hurt both players tremendously in my mind to sit out. So, look, I don't know if a deal gets done. I know we can sit here and drum up all kind of ideas and ways of where it makes sense for this team and that team, but ultimately, I just don't know if it does.
I mean, what if you could work that deal and send J.C. Horn over there, a guy that's barely available?
Yeah, you take
really good. You take that deal in a heartbeat, especially if it's not going to cost you too much. But again, I don't think the Bengals are that stupid.
No, I don't think they are either. T-Swizzle on the YouTube stream says they go to a top 15 team with him on there. Look, it depends where. I'm with you there. I think the Panthers do, T-Swizzle, but I don't think every team does, if that makes sense. Dewey, JB, DB. Let's see who else on the comments and the YouTube and Facebook and Twitter stream. JB says, Cole, it's Rebel game week. Woohoo. So good to see all of you Tolos. 57 of you Tolos in the stream right now where you can watch the show, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The Hub City Spartan Burgers text line is also open at 844-326-3663. You know what week it is, Diesel? You know what week it is?
Yeah.
All this time, we've waited all this time, and it's finally time. The Upset Picks Challenge is back this week. That's what's happening. We're only a couple days away from the Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles Markets from being back. Where are you leaning? What are your early leans? There are limited options this weekend. But guess what? We have football back this weekend, and we take a look at early leans for the Upset Picks Challenge next. Well, we've made it, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long, hot summer, but the dog days of summer have come to an end. Football is back. You say, Cole, Clemson, South Carolina is not till next weekend. Well, you'd be right, but you'd be wrong in the sense that there's not football this weekend, because there is football this weekend. That's right, real games, not preseason, college football, not many to choose from. However, we will take it anyway we can get it. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson on this Monday edition of Wire to Wire. 5 games to choose from. Take that back. 4 games to choose from, Diesel, for the Upset Picks Challenge that begins on Wednesday. There are 5 games happening this weekend, but Idaho State and UNLV at 4 o'clock, as riveting of a game as that is, does not have a point spread. But nonetheless, we've got 4 games to choose from. You ready?
I love it. I'm
so ready.
I mean, we actually have at least one good matchup.
Top
this
25.
We're gonna be watching all of them, right?
Top 25 matchup at noon. Iowa State, Kansas State, and then you have Fresno State, Kansas. 6:30. I mentioned Idaho State, UNLV. It'll be on TV, I'm sure, but you can't pick it for the Upset Picks Challenge because ESPN doesn't have a spread on the game. If you are new to the show, the Upset Picks Challenge begins on Wednesday. Diesel, the spreads will be locked in as of
3 p.m. on Wednesday.
3 p.m. on Wednesday. Again, if ESPN.com does not have a spread on the game, you can't choose it. Just prime example, Fresno State, Kansas. But if you want to participate and have not done so, we'd love to have you in the challenge, brought to you by Ingles Markets. It's real simple. Kansas State, they're favored by 3 points. If you want to get on the board and that rolling point total, you just choose Iowa State as the underdog +3. And Diesel, you might get on the board. You just won't have a lot of points. This week, 4 games to choose from: Iowa State, Kansas State, Fresno State, Kansas, Sam Houston State, Western Kentucky, and Stanford, Hawaii. Do you have an early lean on one of those 4 games?
I do. And here's the thing. You said it there. 3 points. If you pick this one and you hit it, 3 points, that's great. You're off to the races.
Yeah.
You're on the board. But there's not a whole lot of points in it for you.
Right.
Then again, you look at these other games, 10-point spread in the Sam Houston Western Kentucky game, 12-point spread in the Fresno State Kansas game. You can take those, and it's certainly a value play if you feel like one of those teams has a good shot at pulling that upset. But there's a reason why those are 10 and 12-point spreads, because the underdogs are not very good in those games.
No.
So
that's that's the tug of war, right?
Yeah.
What do you want? 3 points? And I don't want to say meaningless points, but the reality is they could be meaningless.
You got to remember that this is a long challenge.
It is.
Last year, there were, I think, 19 total weeks of picks. That included week 0 last year, week 0, week 1. You got the entirety of the season. Then you've got the bowl season as well, pre and post Christmas bowl games. And I think we even did conference championship week last year.
I'm ready.
So there's
excited.
19 different picks. You don't have to feel like you got to go out there and score 25 points a week. Sometimes hitting those 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pointers, they can add up over the course of the season.
Tolos, let us know on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line what your early lean is. JB on the stream says Sam Houston, Western Kentucky looks like a good play. Sam Houston, 10-point underdogs. Let's start with Iowa State, Kansas State. Noon, Saturday, Aviva Stadium in Dublin. No, Dublin is not in Kansas or Iowa.
Dublin is what Pat McAfee is going to be doing, as in Dublin over, vomiting from all of the Guinness that he's going to drink again this year.
So we have another Dublin game. Iowa State leads the all-time series 54-50-4, including a 29-21 win last season. So really close. Again, the point spread, according to ESPN.com, is Kansas State favored by 3 in the latest point total. It might move, but like Diesel said, we lock them in on Wednesdays at 3. The over-under is set to 49.5. So this was a really close game a season ago. Only 8 points, 29-21 win for Iowa State. Kansas State, Diesel got a junior quarterback, Avery Johnson, who's returning. He had a solid campaign a season ago, 13 games, 217 completions of 372 attempts, which was about a 58.3 completion percentage, 2,712 yards, 25 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions, so not bad. He also had 600 yards on the ground. Iowa State brings back junior quarterback Rocco Beck. So both teams bringing back a quarterback. Rocco threw for a few more yards, about 400, 500 more yards in 2024, 9 interceptions, 25 touchdowns. I think you should expect a close game based on the 2 quarterbacks returning, but also the point spread.
Yeah, Matt Campbell in his 10th season at Iowa State. He's been around. Remember, Matt Campbell was like the hot name for a long, long time. And people have been trying to get him out of there. They won 11 games last year, by virtue of beating Miami in the bowl game.
Right.
Here's what I like about Iowa State, and this is why at this point I'm still kind of leaning taking this game, even though it's a small point spread, is this Iowa State team is a veteran-led team. They brought back a lot of starters, 13 returning starters, including 53 lettermen. That means that two deep is old at Iowa State. They scored 31 points a game last year. You said it, Rocco Beck is back. He 27 starts in his first 2 seasons at Iowa State. Probably could have gone somewhere else and sought some money in the transfer portal. He didn't do that. So that to me suggests this team's got some cohesiveness. It's got some togetherness. The offensive line are all juniors and seniors. Again, last year, their first double-digit win season in program history. Lost in the Big 12 title game, beat Miami in the bowl game. Kansas State, a little bit young, though. Just 9 starters coming back. 3-point spread in this one. To me, that's a toss-up kind of game.
It is.
And I would say that a team with the most experience coming back has a really good chance to win that game, and it's Iowa State.
I think it is coin flip game. Both teams have good running backs. Dylan Edwards for Kansas State is on like every preseason awards list that you can be on, including the Maxwell Award list. He was the offensive MVP in the bowl game a season ago, rushed for 196 and 2 touchdowns in their win over Rutgers. Last season he was good, but also Carson Hansen for Iowa State's really good at running back as well. So I'm with you. I do think it is a toss-up, and for that reason, I'm not really intrigued by it. So let's look at the next one. Fresno State, Kansas. Okay, Kansas is favored by 12, which is a big point spread in the Upset Picks Challenge, right? If you had to just pick Fresno State to cover the spread, that's one thing. But asking a 12-point dog, Diesel, to outright win the game, that's a lot. Matt Entz, obviously we know what he did at North Dakota State, right? Really good coach, one of the best, won 2 championships there. However, Kansas is going to be a little bit tougher of a test. Fresno State's going to have to run the football. I with my heart, I want to pick this game just because it's a big swinger. It's a big dipper, right? 12 points in opening week of the Upset Picks Challenge. That'd be huge. I just don't know if in his first season, if Fresno State has the dogs to get it done. Kansas, I think, with a returning quarterback. Jalen Daniels, I think he's going to – I think the experience wins in this one. So this one's you'd have to be a really good convincer to convince me to choose this one.
Well, think about this, Cole, and this may give you a reason to take the dog here, to take Fresno State. Matt Entz in his first year at North Dakota State, and granted, it's North Dakota State where they get the best of the best at the FCS level as far as recruits go.
They've got dudes.
First year, 2019, 16-0. 16-0 regular season, 8-0 in conference. Dipped a little bit in 2020, but like everyone did. 14 wins in 2021, 12 wins in 22, 11 wins in 23. So this guy knows how to win, but what he inherited at North Dakota State was a Ferrari, right? They gave him the keys to a sports car. He didn't have to jump into a beater like Fresno State. And I remember back in the day, man, when Fresno State were dogs, when they were, we'll play anybody anywhere, and you didn't want to see Fresno State on that schedule. But that's obviously not the case. There's a reason why they go and hire a guy like Matt Entz from North Dakota State. I like that Fresno State is a little bit older of a football team on offense, but they are super young on defense. A lot of sophomores going to be starting in this game. Didn't have a powerful offense last year. E.J. Warner coming in after 2 transfers. This is his 3rd school. He was at Temple for a year where he threw for 3,100 yards. He was at Rice last year where he threw for 2,700 yards. So there's a guy, offensive scheme being what it is, he changed schools, lowered his production by 400 yards. Consequently, though, Kansas was really bad defensively last year, and they were not strong in the portal. So, I mean, are we really to believe that Kansas has upgraded that much at defense? I don't think they have. So I don't think they're going to be a very good defense this year.
I could see Fresno State covering. I just think ultimately Kansas probably wins. I've stayed away from that one. Tolos, if you just tuned into the show, maybe you just got off of work heading home on this Monday, we are looking at games this weekend, college football back And the Upset Picks Challenge, brought to you by Ingles Markets, is also back on Wednesday at 4 p.m. The spreads are locked in at 3 p.m. We've looked at Iowa State, Kansas State, looked at Fresno State, Kansas. Diesel, the game that I'm eyeing is Sam Houston, Western Kentucky. Conference USA, Western Kentucky, a 10-point favorite. 10-point favorite on Saturday. That game is 7 o'clock. Now, 10 points is a lot of points, right? It's risky. However, going up 10 an opening week of the Upset Picks Challenge, it's got my eye. It's got my attention a little bit. So Sam Houston, Western Kentucky, again, Western Kentucky is probably the better team, but I think Sam Houston's offensive line is going to be a strength early. They're the back end of their defense, the secondary is absolutely loaded as well. They got some guys in the transfer portal. I just think that ultimately Sam Houston has so much newness that Western Kentucky might have the veteran experience. It's going to be very, very tough. However, you know what you do see in college football, especially sometimes in opening weekend, you see wacky things happen. And I'm going to bank that this is the wacky thing that happens in college football opening weekend.
Well, credit to Sam Houston State. We've seen them transition into FBS and be really good, like right out of the gate. Good team. They won 10 games last year. You look back at their history, and Sam Houston is that team. And granted, a majority of this is in FCS, but over the last 10 years or so, they'll have 2 good seasons in a row where they'll win 9 and 10 games, and then they'll drop for 2 seasons and be pretty terrible, and then back up and then back down. There's just not a level of consistency with that program overall that you can have a lot of trust in them year over year. This could be another down year for them. You just don't quite know. Quarterback Hunter Watson played in 3 games last year at Wisconsin, so he's coming in as a transfer. Western Kentucky's defense was really good over the last 6 games last year, but they lost 9 starters off the defense. So they might not be able to stop anybody. If Sam Houston can score, and again, it's a question mark with a new quarterback, they could easily win this game, and they might even rout them.
So I'm banking on, again, this is my early lean for Wednesday. I'm banking on Sam Houston's defense, who, by the way, Diesel led the conference in scoring defense a season ago. They lost a lot up front on that defensive line and linebackers, but they do, like I said, return some solid secondary pieces. I'm banking on that defense still causing enough havoc to pull the upset, 10-point upset. And then the final game Saturday night, I know it's not the absolute best slate in the world. It's just a little tease before the big dogs come the following weekend. But Stanford, Hawaii, 7:30.
ACC Mountain West matchup. Don't you love it?
Oh, yeah. This is the one you cook steaks for. You get the popcorn. You get ready. It's in Honolulu, 7:30 our time, which means it's like 2 a.m. there, right? They're going to be playing football at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, Diesel, Stanford, Hawaii is only a 2.5-point spread in favor of Hawaii. Look, they're getting a couple of points from being at home. So, basically, Vegas is telling us this is a coin flip game, much like the game we talked about earlier with Kansas State and Iowa State. I look at this Upset Picks Challenge. 2 points really don't do it. 2.5 points. It don't do it for me. You know?
What good does it have? Even if everyone else is wrong, right? Let's say everybody takes Sam Houston in 10 or Fresno State in 12, and they get their picks wrong, and you're right. You're up 2.5 points, and that league could get gobbled up.
That's why I'm going 10, man. There's not a lot of options this week.
Plus, first year under Frank Reich, we'll get to see Frank Reich back on the field coaching for Stanford this year. That's going to be fun, but I'm with you, man. I don't see any value in this. And to be honest, if I'm a high school recruit, I don't see a ton of football value in going to play at Hawaii. I mean, you're playing in a beautiful location, but everything there is insanely expensive. You're going there basically as an extended 4-year vacation.
Yeah.
When was the last time you heard of a Hawaii football player making his way into the NFL? It just doesn't happen.
I don't know. I'm with you. I would like to look. I mean, you look at it from the standpoint of these low point totals, these low point spreads, rather. Maybe you could get a win because it's not a big gamble. But to your point, what are you going to do? Only 2.5. Alex Guest texted me and said, I don't think that's how time zones work. I'm very aware. It was kind of a joke in terms of the time zone with Hawaii and us on the East Coast.
Tell him, Alex.
Thank you for that. What would I do without someone that knows time zones, right? So there's your slate of games. Yep. The only one you can't choose in the Upset Picks Challenge is at 4 o'clock, Idaho State, UNLV. I think it's on Facebook Live Saturday is how you can watch that game. You can get a ticket right now for $21 in Las Vegas, Nevada.
How about that?
You can go put, a little money, a little cheese on red, walk over, see a barn burner between Idaho's. How many people will be at that game, you think? Idaho State, UNLV.
Oh, man. I mean, I know UNLV's they've got some juice behind them. I think they could be pretty good this year. They are sort of an underdog or a dark horse candidate to maybe make that G5 spot in the playoff. But I don't know, man. Like 15,000, 20,000.
That's a lot.
20,000 at most. And it's a hard spot. I mean, you're in Las Vegas. It's not a big city. It's a transient city. And man, if UNLV ever got good, that would be a fun weekend. Go see the Rebels. Go throw some money down at the blackjack table. But it's not going to be a must-watch game. When we come back, Cole, let's see what else is happening out there in the sports world. We bring our normal 5:45 segment and our Daily Wires to 3:45 for the new audience. That's coming your way next. We've talked Carolina Panthers and trades, especially for Trey Hendrickson in the first segment. We also talked the Upset Picks Challenge, maybe some strategy session in the last segment, Cole. But let's see what else is out there. These are our daily wires. The buzz happening around the sports world is that number 24, Tennessee, has finally decided on its new starting quarterback. And to no one's surprise, it is Joey Aguilar, who transferred in from UCLA, where he was for about 5 minutes. Previously, last season, he played at App State.
You know, that's not one of the biggest stories in the SEC, but I do think it's one of the more intriguing stories with Tennessee being, so good under Josh Heupel, a big brand in college football. How Joey Aguilar will do there, I'm interested to see.
It's fun because that guy has gone from JUCO to G5 to SEC in 3 seasons.
He's moving on up, as they say.
No surprise to anyone, Ohio State's Ryan Day has named Julian Sayin as the starter for Week 1 against Texas. And the Browns have named Joe Flacco as their starter for this season.
So out of the 19 quarterbacks that they have, and again, that's sarcasm, Tolos.
They're not far off, though.
One.
Yeah.
So there you go. The question now becomes not who do they start, but who do they cut? You can't keep 4. You got to cut 1 or 2. I don't know.
Who's it going to be? Scotty Scheffler has done it again, thanks in part to an absolutely wild chip in down the stretch at Caves Valley Golf Club in Maryland over the weekend. He overtook Robert McIntyre to claim the BMW championship win yesterday. He posted 3 under 67 in the final round of the FedEx Cup playoffs to grab a 2-shot win over the field. It marked the second largest come-from-behind win of his career. Scheffler has now won 5 times this season, his second straight PGA Tour season, with at least 5 wins in the books. Only one other golfer has done that in history, and it was Tiger.
That guy is on another level right now.
Yeah.
It's just stupid what he's doing.
Yeah, and he obviously had a chance to do it the previous week, too, because he was sitting there in 3rd place and almost came from behind to win that one. The Hub City Spartanburgers, unfortunately, sadly, Cole, dropped 2 of 3 over the weekend to Brooklyn. They are off today. They will restart tomorrow with a series where they host the Greenville Drive. Tomorrow's first pitch, 1:35 p.m. The Spartanburgers are 55-58 on the season, 3.5 games back from Bowling Green. They sit in 3rd place in the South Atlantic League South Division, behind the Greenville Drive and against Bowling Green. Austin Dillon got the win in Richmond on Saturday night, winning the NASCAR Cookout 400. Sunday's race at Daytona will be the final regular season race of the season. Some more NASCAR news for you. NASCAR has announced that O'Reilly Auto Parts will be the new title sponsor for its secondary series next year, replacing Xfinity. So it will no longer be the Xfinity series. It will be the O'Reilly Auto Parts series.
I think they have the most catchy catchphrase in the history of the world.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Ow! I think it's the most catchy ever. Come on. That's a good segment.
It's good. Omaha forward Deng Mayer, who transferred from North Dakota this offseason, sadly passed away on Saturday in a drowning incident. He was 22 years old. According to news reports, Mayer was with a friend at the Black Ridge Reservoir in Harriman, Utah, when they began to struggle in the water. His friend reached the shore, but went back into the water to help Mayer. Sadly, could not get him out
terrible,
healthy.
Man.
So
terrible.
Sad stuff. Georgia teenager Mason Howell capped a productive summer before his senior year of high school by winning the U.S. Amateur at the Olympic Club on Sunday, just 2 months after competing in his first U.S. Open. How about that? Howell turned 18 in June, raced out to a big lead over Tennessee's Jackson Harrington on the opening 18 holes, and went on to win the 36-hole final 7 and 6 to surpass Tiger Woods and become the 3rd youngest U.S. amateur champion ever.
How about that? I like this comment from Hayden Wilson, speaking of golf, on Facebook. Any love for Jacob Bridgman in the top 30 rankings moving on the next week? Absolutely, Hayden. I have reached out to Jacob in the past this year to try to get him on. Local guy, Clemson guy, Chapman High School right here in the upstate. So 100% congrats to him.
Some NFL trade buzz. The Jaguars have acquired veteran defensive tackle Kalen Saunders from the New Orleans Saints for veteran center Luke Fortner. Alabama tailback Jam Miller, the number 8 Crimson Tide's top returning rusher, suffered an upper body injury in a scrimmage Saturday and is expected to miss the August 30th season opener at Florida State. Could that be the reason why Florida State pulls the upset? Think about it.
No.
Hampered on the running game. I don't know.
You're going to have to convince me a little harder, Diesel.
Kalen DeBoer said that that Miller was hurt and had a medical procedure following the scrimmage, but did not give any more details than that. And last one here for you, Cole. Oof, this is not fun. Clemson tight end Ian Shefflin was arrested Sunday morning on suspicion of DUI.
Yo, Diesel, when I saw that, I was talking to some people yesterday afternoon. And look, it's a bad decision. And you think to yourself, players nowadays, with what they're making with different NIL collectives and different sports, wouldn't you imagine, Diesel, that Ian Shefflin can afford an Uber?
Yeah,
he probably can afford it.
We all have. We've all had that feeling of invincibility, that feeling of I'm not going that far. I can make it. It's only like 2 miles down the road. It was
downtown Clemson.
But that's how these things happen. One final one here for you, Cole. This is for you South Carolina Gamecock fans. South Carolina is going to face NC State in an exhibition match on October 26th. NC State going to be hosting a doubleheader where their women's team will face Maryland and their men's team will face South Carolina at 4:30 p.m. Again, October 26th.
And I'll throw one more in there, also South Carolina related. We got confirmation about an hour ago. This Wednesday, on Wire to Wire, August 20th, we will be joined by the head football coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks, Shane Beamer, at 3:45 p.m. So, Gamecock fans, don't forget, write it down. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Shane Beamer on the show Wednesday at 3:45. We'll talk Gamecocks with Coach Beamer then. Diesel, the biggest takeaways from the 2 weeks we've had of NFL preseason. That's next. Well, I know we're all ready for real football, and we are inching closer in the NFL as we are through 2 weeks of NFL preseason. I know none of us sit down with friends and families to watch NFL preseason games, but it's one of those things. It's like going to get your teeth cleaned. You just got to do it. You got to do it. In the NFL, you have to have those preseason games, and we're only 1 week away, Diesel, from being miserable as we watch the Cowboys lose to the Eagles in the opening game.
I knew you were talking about Dallas as soon as you said the word miserable.
Or teeth cleaning, right? Or teeth pulling is sometimes what it feels like. But nonetheless, there have been 2 weeks of NFL preseason. We'll get into the Carolina Panthers, our biggest takeaways from the 2 weeks, because while they're essentially meaningless games, they're not meaningless for the players who are trying to earn roster spots. There is one more game tonight. Again, meaningless preseason, but it's Monday Night Football, and it's on TV tonight. ESPN, Cincinnati, and Washington. I don't know exactly who will suit up for which team. I can tell you who won't. Trey Hendrickson won't suit up for
Do you think
Cincinnati.
He'll even be there in the
I would say
stadium?
Big no to that, most likely. I'd say Trey's not making the trip to Washington tonight. He's going to take a hard pass. Might not even watch from the house. You know, like it might be a family night or bowling night or something.
You know, this is it's you see all these players essentially threatening to sit out, like forego a season of their career. You know what NFL stands for? It stands for not for long. You don't have too many of these opportunities, and you get a year older, your skills diminish a little bit. You're not practicing as hard. You're not playing in game situations. You come back a year from now, you might not be the player that you were 2 years prior. So that's a dangerous move from some of these players who are trying this.
And for us to be entering the 2025 season with the two best players in the NFL defensively, maybe you can throw one or two others in there. But Micah Parsons and Trey Hendrickson is like two of the best defensive players in the entire National Football League. And we're having the conversation, Diesel, that they might not play. Like, what on earth? That just doesn't even sound right. So we have one game tonight. I have some takeaways from this weekend. A lot of them have to do with quarterbacks in the NFL. But, Diesel, let's start with a hometown team. Carolina Panthers played over the weekend, and they lost 20-3 to the Houston Texans. Panthers now 0-2 in the preseason. Houston 1-1 thus far, and it was a night of no names for Carolina. A lot of guys that you just didn't really recognize their names. The big names, they played for 1 or 2, maybe 3 snaps, and that was about it over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say you're being a little aggressive with phrasing it as the Carolina Panthers played over the weekend.
Well, that's true too, yeah.
Because this was pathetic as far as how much these guys actually saw the field. Anybody whose names you actually recognize, somebody who you know off the top of your head, not somebody you have to go to the 3 deep to get an idea of who they are. Bryce Young, I mean, he was out there for 2 attempts.
Yeah.
What's the point? Didn't complete a pass. He's in the clubhouse. He's got a towel wrapped around his head. I don't understand the point of even playing Bryce Young.
I mean, do we even know, like Jack Plummer, we know the name, and we know Andy Dalton, of course. But you said it, Bryce Young was out there for 2 snaps. I mean, what if he tears his meniscus, or God forbid he tears his ACL in one of those 2 snaps? If you're gonna play him, play him. But if he's only gonna play 2 snaps, put the guy in bubble wrap on the sideline, in the locker room. Jack Plummer, Diesel, you know, everybody knows Jack Plummer. He's a quarterback that's been in the NFL for 3 or 4 years now, maybe.
Jack Plummer, I think I've seen his vans driving around the upstate promising, speedy service. If you got a leak, call Jack Plummer.
Yeah, that's exactly.
844, call Jack.
I think Jack went to, like, Purdue. I think he's a Purdue guy.
What's funny is Bryce Young, and I don't know how many plays he actually played, how many snaps he took. Only attempted 2 passes, but he did get sacked 1 time.
Good.
So this Carolina offensive line is so bad. Bryce Young out there for probably a series took a sack.
So again, I think the biggest takeaway I have from NFL preseason, looking at the Panthers specifically, before we get into other takeaways, Diesel, is this: People ask the question, and if you're an NFL fan, if you're a fan of football, I think it's very important to remember this. You say, okay, the NFL preseason's not important, but you have to add 2 words on the end of that for me. For who, right? For you, maybe it's not. For Bryce Young, maybe it's not. But for a guy, Diesel, like, let's just say, for example, Trevor Etienne or Karan Lynch-Adams or Woody Marks for Houston, like, it is important for them. And I get that doesn't make riveting television. We don't sit down to watch Karan Lynch-Adams and Woody Marks run the football. We just don't. However, there are a lot of people that rely on these 3 preseason games to get data, to get film out there. And while it's just, like I said, it's one of those things you have to do, getting your teeth cleaned. You don't love love having teeth pulled, but you got to do it.
I just wish they wouldn't even air them. Just don't even put them on TV.
Well, they're not going to turn down revenue.
Right. I mean, but if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, and look, Panthers fans have been burned for the last couple of years, and you had that thought of, hey, there's some hope in this team in 2023, and they sucked. And then there's some hope that maybe this first year jitters, maybe they'll be better this year. They weren't much better last year. So I think it can kind of serve for the lay fan who doesn't know or doesn't consider that these games are built and designed to let the 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s on this depth chart get some real looks in a real game environment. They may get discouraged from the team and think, hey, this team's just going to be awful again this year.
And I think that's what, and for some cases, some instances, they may be. But I think, Diesel, that's why it's important for fans to realize the outcomes of preseason games mean zilch. What happens during an NFL preseason game, it matters. It really does for those players. But the outcome absolutely means nothing. By the way, I was looking up at the TV a minute ago, our own Diesel, South Carolina, in action right now, Little League World Series. South Carolina, Nevada, is that 0-0 up there?
0-0, runner on first base with 1 out. South Carolina is up to bat.
Top of the 4th, by the way.
Top of the 4th, 0-0 game. We'll see if Irmo can pull this one out.
South Carolina, man, how about it? They've made a really good run thus far, so we'll keep you updated on that. I do have 3 other takeaways, and I'll start with the one that I saw last night. So last night, I turned the TV on, and we've got NFL football on a Sunday night, 8 o'clock, and Diesel, because it's football, I sat down, I watched, and it was the Bills and the Bears. And you know what surprised me? I know you can't read too much into it, but Caleb Williams looked good last night. He did. I know you're not going to love that, but he looked good.
He's needed it, considering how bad he's looked through camp so far.
What if maybe, just maybe, Ben Johnson was the answer that Caleb Williams needed all along? Ben Johnson leaves Detroit, comes to Chicago, and all of a sudden, look, last night he didn't play a ton. He was 6 of 10, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. But the plays that he made last night were really impressive. If you watch the game, he made some good throws.
Yeah, but Tyson Bagent, by virtue of having better starts here, shouldn't he be the Bears starter? He looked pretty good too. 13 of 22 for 196 yards and a touchdown as well.
By the way, the Bears, just for the record, because this might not have ever been said on radio, the Bears won the football game 38-0 over the Bills. Like, just for the record, they won. And I know it's preseason, but the Bears won a game, and it wasn't even close. Now, Josh Allen didn't play, right? Frank Gore played a little bit for Buffalo. You look at a lot of these guys. Mitch Trubisky played for Buffalo. Mike White played a little bit. So it was 2s and 3s, like we said. But my first takeaway was Caleb Williams didn't look bad. I thought he looked decent last night. Maybe there's some hope and optimism in Chicago.
T-Swizzle on the stream on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. Just go search for The Fan Upstate. Says he changed his fingernails. T-Swizzle, did he actually have any coloring on his fingernails at all last night?
I didn't notice.
Maybe that's part of streamlining, get rid of the pink fingernail polish. Spend a little less time cuddling with your dog, more time studying the playbook, and maybe he was pretty good. But again, you said it. It's preseason. He's going against the 2s and the 3s from the other team. So
Texter, I believe this is JD on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, says, I just hoped to see something promising from the players heading into the regular season, and I literally can't think of a thing. Defense hasn't done anything. Offense hasn't done anything. Special teams made a field goal. Well, what team are you referencing?
He's referencing the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
And he's not wrong. I mean, the fact is they've been pretty bad offensively for the past 2 years straight with Bryce Young as quarterback. They basically can muster a touchdown and a field goal in most games. Obviously, the last 6-7 games of last year is a little bit different. And we did see that jump, that improvement there. But yeah, I mean, this is how you discourage a fan base is by giving them the same crap in preseason.
And see, I think that's on them, though. I think that's on the fans. I think that's on us. If you get discouraged by preseason football, that's a you problem. You have to realize as a fan that they are not trying to win the game. Their goal is not to go out there and win the game in the preseason. Their goal is not to have the offensive efficiency numbers look good. Their goal is not to have the best turnover scoring defense in the NFL in the preseason. Their goal is literally evaluating position by position, especially when it comes to 2s, 3s, and 4s. I'm not saying like I totally disagree, but I will say if you are upset and frustrated with your team in the preseason, you're missing the boat. That's a you problem.
Yeah,
it is completely wins don't matter right now.
The wins don't matter, but I think a lot of fans would rather in preseason games they look mildly competent and not worse than they have in seasons past. If all you muster is 3 points when the Titans are out there putting up 25 and the Seahawks are out there putting up 33. And you see scores all across the league where these teams are putting up 2, 3, 4 touchdowns in preseason games. You say to yourself, hey, I want a little taste of that. Especially it drives the needle in even more when it's CJ Stroud on the other side of the field playing well in preseason games.
My whole point is I hear you. I just think if you go look into the research, there's probably a lot of Super Bowl champions out there who didn't look good in the preseason, who didn't win a lot of games in the preseason. So
to your point, the season that the Patriots went undefeated, they also were undefeated in preseason games and they lost down the stretch.
You just don't, fans, just don't worry about the outcomes. Don't worry about the outcome. Eric Hines on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says, nope, Bears are going to suck just as bad as the Cowgirls. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eric Hines. I love Eric, even though he's a Cowboy or a Eagles fan. I met an Eagles fan today from Philadelphia across the street, down the road a little bit. And he didn't listen to local sports radio, told him about the show. He had a Philly hat on, so we were obviously talking football. But
what was he busy doing? Chucking rocks at oncoming cars?
No, they were greasing up light poles is what they were doing for their
okay.
Super Bowl celebrations is what they were busy doing. JD says, you're right, Cole, but I didn't say anything about them winning. I would have liked to seen a little crispness from the offense. They just don't seem on the same page. Well, maybe my point is to that, JD, why don't they seem on the same page, right? Why? So think about it. They don't seem on the same page because the offense they're running out there, you've got to understand, when 11 guys go on offense, that 11 that they're running out there, the coach's goal is not for that 11 to score points and win the game. It is individual performance. They want to see what that right tackle does or that slot receiver does. And I know you say, well, Cole, they still want to score. Yeah, but their ultimate goal is to evaluate. That's what the preseason for is, evaluation. Speaking of quarterbacks, 2 other takeaways, Diesel. Browns named their starter. Joe Flacco, you said this during the Daily Wires, in case you missed it. Joe Flacco's been named the starting quarterback of the Browns. What does that mean for Shador, Dylan Gabriel, who said over the weekend, started a little controversy with, the entertainer point that he brought up, the entertainer line that he threw out there. I'm not an entertainer. I'm here to play football. So what does that do for Shador, Dylan Gabriel, and all the other 15 guys on the roster at quarterback? Do you think Joe Flacco at starting quarterback was the right move for the Cleveland Browns, Diesel?
I mean, it certainly throws a wrench into that bike tire, right? I mean, it makes it tough. He went out there and played well, 13 of 18, 143 yards and no touchdowns and an interception. He completed a large percentage of his passes. It makes you question who do you trust more at this point?
Yeah,
Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel? One of them is going to have to be the number 3 on this team. I certainly don't think Tyler Huntley is going to make the roster. He's
I'm with you there.
He's probably going to be the guy that gets cut 6th season out of Utah. So it certainly just makes that decision tough, but they're going to have to cut one. They're going to have to cut 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I guess by naming Joe Flacco the quarterback, essentially what you're doing is, look, you're saying as a franchise, we've got to start with some stability, right? We know that we've got some young guys who may be able to produce for us down the road, down the line, but we've got to start the season with stability. We've got to start with a guy – Diesel, in week 1, when they go out there, Joe Flacco can read that zone coverage and read that Mike linebacker, and maybe that stability will lead to a Brown start that if you had a rookie out there, you might start 0-2 or something like that, where with Joe Flacco, maybe you're 1-1.
And you certainly don't want to have the kind of team or the kind of lack of mastery of the offense to see your quarterback always having to run for his life, right? That is a recipe for getting yourself hurt. It means your offensive line is letting a lot of dudes through. It means your quarterback is not great at picking up blitzes and he's having to run for his life. You can't make an entire season out of that. Sure. It's just, it's not possible. So, and them, they're not going to make the move to get rid of Kenny Pickett because he is their number 2 with some actual NFL experience as well. This is a tough spot for these Cleveland Browns. I mean, the fans are probably going to want Shedeur Sanders just because he's the flashy guy with a lot of name recognition. Would you rather have that guy with the escapability runs for his life, or Dillon Gabriel, who may show a little more mastery of the scheme?
And then the last thing, Diesel, I'll say about the first 2 weeks and my takeaways is that I ultimately see the New York Giants. We know they're starting Russell Wilson, right? I see him keeping Jackson Dart, and I probably see him keeping Jameis Winston and cutting Tommy DeVito. And from what I've seen in the preseason, I love Jameis, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson Dart's the 2 on that depth chart. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if Jackson Dart was the backup quarterback to Russell Wilson. He's looked poised, man. He's got that gamer attitude from what I've watched. I've liked what I've seen. I know it's preseason and he's going against guys who aren't going to be out there every Sunday. But evaluation-wise, I think Jackson Dart's checked more boxes than obviously Tommy DeVito, who's probably going to go to the practice squad. And then Jameis Winston, like if you don't know what you have with Jameis Winston by now, what are you doing? Because, this guy's been around for how many years now, Diesel, in the NFL? You kind of know what you've got with him is my point.
Well, on the other side of the break, Cole, we're going to go to a guy who hasn't been around on this planet for a long time. A young guy, a lot of talent, but he knows his stuff when it comes to Clemson football. On the other side of the break, Grayson Mann of TigerNet going to join us. That's coming your way next on the Fan Upstate. It's hard watching somebody else live your dreams. And if you're a Clemson Tiger fan, you're watching other teams get out on the field this weekend, and you've got to wait a full extra week to actually see your team get out and play. And speaking of watching somebody live your dream, Grayson Mann out there crushing the game every single day on that Clemson Tiger beat for tigernet.com. Grayson, thanks for joining us. Last week, Cole and I both gave our predictions for the Clemson season. Both of us see Clemson going 11-1. Cole has them losing on that Friday night game on the road at Louisville because things can get wonky on the road on a Friday night. I have them losing to South Carolina to end the season. So getting to 11-0 and then stumbling right there at the end against a team that I think will, be matured by that point. Which one of us is most likely to be correct and which one of us is completely nuts?
I don't think I'd say completely nuts, Diesel, but first of all, thank you guys for having me. I hope you guys are doing well. But I think we mentioned in Charlotte when we sat down after, I think, Wednesday of ACC kickoff, I still think Louisville's that game to watch. I think all three of us probably are in agreement that we take Clemson over LSU in the opener, but I do think that wonky Friday night scheduling game where you got to go to Louisville, it's probably going to be a freezing atmosphere. That Louisville crowd is pretty underrated, I think, in terms of some of those home crowds, and I think Louisville will be pretty good this year, so there's going to be a little bit of an amped nature to it, especially if Clemson is undefeated at that point.
Yeah.
So I think if I had to choose a game, I do think it's probably that Louisville Friday night weird scheduling game. I'm sure they're loving the fact they have to change the schedule so late in the game.
Grayson Mann, tigernet.com, joining us today and every Monday during football season at 4:22 p.m. The best Clemson coverage you can find right there with Grayson and tigernet.com. Grayson, what should Clemson fans make of the news that you broke yesterday regarding the tight end Ian Shefflin and the DUI and his arrest early Sunday morning?
Yeah, real fascinating. I think that's the wrong word, but just sort of how this situation has developed has been, I think, interesting to say the least. It's a guy that I think was making a lot of progress over the course of fall camp. A lot of positive reports about him and where he sort of stood. Hearing things from Dabo Swinney, of course, and the rest of the coaching staff. Felt like he was a guy that instantly meshed well with the team and worked really hard to get to that spot and sort of embraced the idea of being a guy behind the scenes instead of sort of his usual forte, which is been a basketball star. It's an incredibly unfortunate situation for all involved. It's really a great thing that nobody was hurt over the weekend, given the circumstances. And now we wait for how the proceedings in court will go. And there has been a report released. We put it up on TigerNet earlier this afternoon, just surrounding the circumstances. It sounds like he had made a pretty poor choice, and Clemson is suspending him. I don't know the exact game count. I believe it's 10% of all competition, as they phrased it within their athletic handbook. So whether that's LSU and Troy or an extension, just based off how Swinney will adjudicate it, really complicated is certainly the word that I would prefer to use for this situation.
Grayson, we talked to an LSU beat reporter last week who said that they are slapping Clemson Tiger paws all over tackling dummies. They're blasting the Clemson fight song in their facility. All fairly standard stuff. But what's the flip side of that? What's Clemson doing to kind of put that hatred into their hearts for the LSU Tigers?
I think one of the themes this offseason has been Clemson's been about Clemson. And I think in the last two season openers you've watched with Duke and Georgia, where Clemson's been handily beaten, a lot of those inflicted wounds are from themselves. You look at the Georgia game early in the first quarter, a lot of procedural penalties. Adam Randall lining up offsides, a couple of infractions pre-snap, just that stalled big plays. I think there were a couple of first down throws that put Klubnik back in a rhythm that were negated due to a penalty. Cole Turner slowing down in his route from a deep ball to Klubnik. The Duke game, we could go over that game over and over, just the nightmare that Swinney endured on the sidelines, watching multiple fumbles within the 5-yard line and just Clemson driving down the field and moving the ball very well, and then you shoot yourself in the foot multiple times with a 12-gauge shotgun. And so it's just sort of, I think for Clemson, the focus has been, how can we prevent those mistakes? We're going to be in the home crowd. They're going to have the 80,000 strong behind them. I think the goal for Clemson is to start quickly, and it's to try to keep some of those self-inflicted wounds that have been a trend of some of these last prior teams, they got to keep those under wraps if they're going to take down LSU. I haven't heard anything about any tiger paws or whatever LSU, the logo they present. I haven't heard anything on that side. I think Clemson's been had a very internal focus this offseason.
Grayson, a little bit of a format breaker from me right here. First of all, I'm going to invite you in a second, but first of all, do you know what the Upset Picks Challenge is?
Is that something to do with like a general? Is this something you guys do?
It is something that we guys that we do. So I'm going to invite you to participate if you want to. It begins this Wednesday. Quick rundown on how it works. Grayson Mann will go on ESPN.com every week and find a underdog who he thinks will win the game outright. Not cover the spread, win the game outright. It's tough. Diesel and I can admit to that. It's really, really tough. And then you have a rolling point total as the season goes on. So let's say, for example, you pick a 5-point underdog. They win. You get 5 points added to your season total. Obviously, so on and so forth. For getting a game wrong, you get what?
1 point, deducted away. If you get a game wrong. Right. 2 points if you don't make a pick at all.
So, based on what you've heard, Grayson Mann, you're one of our weekly guests. Are you in?
I'm in. And, I think the negative point deduction, I'd rather have that on the golf course than on you guys' show. So
I will say, man, look, I thought last year, being my first year, Diesel, explained it very well. And we had how many Tolos total? Diesel, 100 and something?
Yeah, we had somewhere in the range of 125 actually finish with points.
But total submissions. I mean,
it was big. It was
a lot of
close to 200 or more individual players.
So you go into this thing confident, like, okay, I can do this. But last year I just sucked. So it is hard to pick up.
It's okay.
So I'm giving you a heads up now with your invitation.
Okay.
We're starting Wednesday. There are 5 games this weekend, but there are only 4 games to choose from because one of those games doesn't have a point spread on it. So you've got 4 games to choose from. We'll let you know. We'll reach out to you. But we locked the lines in on ESPN.com at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. The challenge opens at 4, and then the floodgates of text messages just pile in. And I'm sure our Tolos will be wanting to see what Grayson Mann does so they can copy your pick.
Okay, I'm in. I love picking a good upset. And, there's nothing more rewarding than being correct, especially in this business.
Yes.
So
I'm
all there for it because sometimes I'm a big swing and miss guy when it comes to the Clemson side of things. So it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of a validation here and there with an upset.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've seen people, get a couple picks right early in the season and then go ice cold and finish with no points by the end of the season. Or like Dan B, one of our Tolos, he had no points. He didn't get anything right until like week 8 or 9 of last season. Went on a little bit of a heater, ended up beating Cole Bryson, who had
which wasn't difficult to do, by the way.
You got to give yourself more credit, man.
Trying to this year. We're going to revamp.
We'll reach out because we know that Tolos will want to play against the experts that we bring on our show. So looking forward to it this year. Josh Pate said that Clemson is a legitimate contender, but the ACC's depth is embarrassing. Think back to the 2016 season, to the 2018 season, their national championships. Do you recall that, Clemson raised ships, and that old adage, what a rising tide raises all ships. Did they bring up any of the ACC with them? Parents want their kids to go to schools where they can see them play. Kids want to go to schools where they're going to play and be tested against the best. Would you say that happened at all in the ACC, the way that it does happen in the SEC?
I think the team that comes to mind when I specifically reference those championship teams, the first one that comes to my mind is Syracuse, always being a school that whenever they played Clemson, it felt like nationally there was always a little bit of a pause of a lot of those times when you see, especially College Game Day, they'll do the quick Clemson pick. I remember growing up, there was no doubt. It was just straight orange across the board. But every now and then you'd get a little, now hold on, Syracuse, they've given Clemson some fits. They beat them in 2017. They've taken them to the wire multiple times. I think that's one of the schools that now with Fran Brown especially is a team that their stock is certainly rising. And that's a team that I really maybe not like to win the ACC or compete for the ACC this year. Wouldn't be shocked like a Georgia Tech, for example. We're talking about Fran Brown like we're talking about Georgia Tech this offseason. A school, I think Pate had GT as the ACC runner-up. I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to speak for him, but the ACC's depth always has been a subject of, I think, controversy, just because when Clemson's been down, they've been the standard bearer for the conference. So when they're 10-3, 9-4, everyone's kind of looking around for another team to step up, and there really hasn't been. And I think this year we'll have potentially 3 to 4 really good teams like Georgia Tech. I think Louisville will be really good. Miami's a big question mark, but I think the depth of the ACC won't be embarrassing this year. I think it'll probably be pretty adequate. But again, that's very subjective when we look at different conferences.
Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. Grayson, have you noticed anything different whatsoever in preparation for this year's opener compared to a season ago, where we all know how the opener didn't go for the Clemson Tigers?
I think one of the more fascinating comments Sweeney's made, I think, in quite some time was in passing almost. And so I don't think a lot of people really noticed it at the time, but I made a mental note of it. And he'd said that at times I felt like last year I had to get the team going. And this year it really hasn't been the case. And he felt like this team has been very much player-led, and has really credited the camaraderie, the senior leadership, the players that have returned, been here for a while, understanding the standard of what it takes to get back to the college football playoff. And I remember last year, I tell this story every chance I get, felt like practice one last year, entering the season with Georgia as the opener, felt like the energy was a little lackadaisical. Didn't really think there was a big oomph. Like, it's day one of fall camp. Where's sort of the buzz and the energy here? And it was very up and down. They had to do up downs. I think the next day it was Nick Eason and Wes Goodwin trying to kind of go back and forth on how they should adjudicate it. And then you saw in the opener, very up and down, very all over the place, a team that wasn't near ready to play a team of that caliber. And they got better as the season went along, but still had their inconsistencies and their woes, like Louisville, or you had a couple of interesting situations with Pittsburgh and Virginia Tech. It's been a lot different this year. It's certainly helping with the addition of Tom Allen, and then you bring a group back that has gotten to the playoff and gotten that postseason taste. They know what it takes, and I think they're trying to correct the sins of the last few season openers. I think the energy, and it's such a cliche-ridden deal to talk about energy, but I think with this Clemson team specifically, it seriously matters.
Find him on Twitter at Gray_Man21. That's man with 2 N's. You talked about Tom Allen there. You know, one thing that Dabo Sweeney has always been really great at is, number one, loyalty, and number two, keeping quality assistants around him happy and keeping them around for a long, long time. You look back at that run in the late teens, that's kind of how it happened. Ultimately, how long do you think this core of Dabo at the helm and then Garrett Riley as OC and Tom Allen as DC kind of sticks together? Is this going to be a core that kind of lasts for a couple of more years, or, you know, a lot of other programs are constantly cycling through offensive and defensive coordinators?
I think cycling is the right word. You're having to sort of shoot fish out of a barrel, essentially. You're really trying to find that right fit. And so I think Klubnik in this core have continuously gotten better. And Riley, I think, as a coordinator, has grown a tremendous amount just in the last several years, where just the adjustments from year one to year two and some other things across the line there. But when I look at that core that you mentioned, Diesel, I think Tom Allen is probably a safe bet to stay here for the foreseeable future. I don't envision a quick turnaround where he's suddenly going to be a head coach. This was a move to stay closer to his family, and I think that's sort of the right time where we could see Tom Allen here for the next 4 to 5 years. Now, that's not out of any sourcing information. That's just my best guess on how this situation kind of unfolded. Riley's a different story. If Clemson is, let's say, the number 3 seed in the college football playoff this year, they win the ACC again, and the offense is to the standard that we expect, and Klubnik has a phenomenal season, I could see there be some rumblings about potential teams that are going to be searching for a head coach next year, maybe inquire about his availability. I don't think it will be I think Riley's probably waiting around for a big fish. I wouldn't expect it to be maybe a group of 5 team, or maybe some of the ACC schools that could have openings, or an SEC school, depending on the record and the history there. I think Riley's waiting on a big fish. That's just my best guess. But I think for someone of his caliber, he's looking at his brother Lincoln, who's running the ship at USC. I think that you take this Clemson job and you try to succeed here, hoping you can find that big fish, like a Brent Venables to Oklahoma type of situation, or a Tony Elliott to Virginia. It's those bigger caliber schools that I think he's holding out for.
Grayson, there's been a lot of conversation about the Clemson offense this offseason, and rightfully so. But talk about the former Boilermaker and what you've seen from Will Helt this offseason, especially in fall camp.
A monster, a force, and exactly what Clemson's needed on that side of the ball. And I think it's also given light for some of the players behind him. I think Jaheim Lawson has been one that comes to mind that's benefited from that added competition. I think it's always great for a room to add in something like Will Helt, because it makes everybody around them kind of check themselves and see where they are at with their development. And maybe that accelerates it. And so I think Helt's been a very positive addition along that side. It's going to make it really, I think, for offensive coordinators, when you're thinking about prepping for Clemson and that front seven, you're thinking, okay, you got Peter Woods, you got TJ Parker, DeMonte Capehart is pretty good one-on-one. Will Helt, there's not going to be a situation where you're going to have to double everybody. There's not 4 running backs in the backfield that can chip all of them. And so I think for Clemson, it was the right move. It was the quintessential move where you get a guy that fits well in the locker room, but also is a big need at that position. I think that's going to be a really scary addition. I think a lot of ACC schools are already probably planning on how to stop that front seven.
Grayson, is it fair to say this year kind of serves as a referendum on Dabo's very traditional philosophy of sticking with the guys that you have, with recruiting out of high school, staying out of the portal as much as possible? I mean, it is the deck is stacked as much as it could be for that philosophy, right? He's got a quarterback who's been in his system forever. He's got a bunch of guys that have been around, almost no guys out of the transfer portal. If it works, great, and it's proof of concept. And if it doesn't work, is it fair for the people to start coming after Dabo again?
I think that the ships really haven't stopped in the coming after Dabo department, where I think there's still going to be some of his bigger critics, regardless of what happens. The way I see it, I don't necessarily see it as if it's a failure. I think the talking points will probably stay the same. And how do we define a failure this season? I would assume it's not making the playoff, but for me, it's probably not winning a playoff game and getting further into the dance. That's just my viewing on it. And I think this is the roster that's perfectly built to have a deep run, where last few years there haven't been really depth, hasn't been the word we've used with these Clemson teams in the problem areas. Offensive line was a problem. Not anymore. Defensive end. Don't really see that as an issue this year. And so I think they're going to find ways to have success. I think for me, it's more on, will Dabo's philosophy potentially change the way other programs start to operate, where they try to rely more on continuity and homegrown talent, really flip the script on, okay, let's not take 25 guys out of the portal. Let's try to keep things going with maybe the sophomore edge that we are trying to develop. Maybe it just needs a little bit extra time in the crock pot. I'm looking on the more side of, we need to see success first in a big way. I guess we'll find out pretty soon.
Grayson, last question for you. Sorry to cut you off there, but last question for you. When you look at linebackers, we know what Sammy and Wade provide from that linebacker position. When you talked about depth a minute ago on the defense, especially at linebacker, what kind of depth is behind those two guys that, God forbid, an injury happened to one of those two really good linebackers? Do you feel like Clemson's defense, especially at the linebacker position, has the depth to make that run that you were just talking about, regardless of injury?
I think that's where you sign and add Jeremiah Alexander out of the portal, and you get someone like him that's been looking for that kind of role, where I think he's going to see the field a lot. And Tom Allen will be very creative with how this rotation works. He's one of them. I think it's been a big offseason for someone like Cooper Taylor for Dabo. The depth of these linebackers have had pretty good scrimmages, and Sweeney's had a lot of good things to say about the depth there. He feels like he's got 6 guys that could go out there and make some contributions. So I do think that's a position that a lot of people were probably worried about in the spring and before Alexander transferred over, where you felt like if Sammy or Wade got hurt, there was a little bit of trouble. I think Sweeney's a little bit more confident than he was a year prior about that position. That could have been this year's defensive end situation, where you're not feeling very great about it if things are, in a health standpoint, not optimal.
Grayson, we appreciate you as always. Looking forward to you being a part of the Upset Picks Challenge. Of course, we'll send you a reminder to be a part of it and make your pick. But looking forward to kicking your ass this year.
Well, as long as it sounds like I don't have to win, I just have to don't be last, and that's where Cole's.
There you go. That's it. There you go.
So, finish with points. That's your goal.
Grayson, we appreciate you as always, man.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. Every Monday, 4:22 during football season. It's that time of year where we will bring our regulars again tomorrow, again on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so on and so forth. A little bit of breaking news for you Gamecock fans. Good news if you've already got your tickets, but bad news if you haven't. We'll tell you what that is next. Tolos, just a reminder that we are about 10, 15 minutes away from Overreaction Monday. Be prepared to get your overreactions in here in about 10 to 15 minutes right here on the Fan Upstate. A little bit of Gamecock news for you. But first, I want to remind you with football season here, we are bringing you a regular slate of guests every week. Diesel, we've been fine-tuning, and we will continue to fine-tune our weekly guest as we hear back from some people. I know our audience loves hearing from Kelly Ford. We just haven't been able to get that nailed down yet. He's a busy man. I heard he's running for president. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I mean, more and more influential people are calling him up and saying, hey, Kelly, we need your insights. We need to know what's going on inside that algorithm and that brain of yours. So, he's got to work around all the people that are demanding his time.
Right. So we're trying, Tolos. Grayson, Mann, TigerNet.com today, 422. He'll join us every Monday at 422. And then Gamecocks on Tuesdays, we'll be joined by Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central at 422. We'll have our high school coaches spotlight, which will float during the week according to when coaches can do it. Bill Bender, a good friend of the show, Diesel of Sporting News, will join us every Wednesday at 522. On Thursdays, we all know that on Thursdays at 6 o'clock, we talk to Clay Hendricks. Right behind me, this Furman flag you see, right? We'll get our Furman update at 6 o'clock beginning this Thursday with Coach Clay Hendricks. But something new, Diesel, this Thursday and every Thursday during football season at 3:22. It's the States segment. What do I mean by that? The state newspaper. We have Chappell Fowler and Jordan Kay on a lot. They both work for the state. Chappell covers Clemson. Jordan covers South Carolina. They're going to rotate. So we'll have one on 1 week and one on the next. So you'll hear Jordan twice a month and Chappell twice a month. And then, of course, we all love Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network, 4 p.m. on Fridays. How about that? Smitty never has anything to say. We always have to pry things out of him, Diesel. I love Smitty. I'm kidding, by the way. So a lot of you Tolos always texting about Smitty. We'll have him on again every Friday at 4 o'clock. And then another floater, high school player of the week. We'll see where that lands just depending on when the practices are that week. So football season is hot and heavy. Diesel, how about this breaking news? Just in Columbia, South Carolina, for the first time with Williams-Brice Stadium being the field where the Gamecocks play their football games. I want you to hear this correctly. For the first time, South Carolina has sold out their entire allotment of season tickets for the 2025 football season. Again, this is the first time that the Gamecocks have sold out their football season ticket allotment at Williams-Brice Stadium.
Shout out to you Gamecock fans for bringing the thunder. They capped season tickets at 47,500. That's they sold 7,500 new season ticket packages. They had record renewals this year. I mean, you Gamecock fans, you're feeling as good as you possibly can about this team. So shout out to this monumentous achievement, Cole. That's more than half the stadium season tickets.
First time ever at Williams-Brice. Are you kidding me? Like when I read that, I thought to myself, there's no way that's right, is there? But for them, that's big news. So the Gamecocks selling out their season tickets. If you want to go to a game, I guess you have to get on those third-party sites, right?
Yeah, it does say in this press release that they sent out, there are limited single game tickets available that are returned from the visitor allotments. Ooh. So you're right. You're going to have to go searching if you want to get out there. I don't know, Cole. I see the packages that you can buy at Costco. It's like 2 upper deck tickets and a couple of hot dogs to a floating South Carolina game. I wonder how those are going to be affected. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Cole, and you and I are going to be down. Both of us are going to be in Atlanta for the South Carolina Virginia Tech game here next weekend. Can't wait for that one. When we come back, it's time for you Tolos to get out your phones and call 844-326-3663, especially if you're angry about something, you overreact in the next segment in Overreaction Monday.
Wider, what's your name?
A live update, Cole. High drama in Williamsport, PA right now. Irmo, South Carolina batter gets caught looking on a 3-2 pitch after the Nevada pitcher got up 2-0, threw 3 wild pitches, had the manager come out and talk to him, the team powwowed around him, and then the Nevada pitcher threw a beautiful strike on the inside corner of the plate, caught Irmo's batter looking for out number 3. They had a runner on third, by the way, with 2 outs, and so they get out of that jam. Now we go to the bottom of the 7th.
Ooh.
That's the final inning in regulation in Little League Baseball, Cole. It's fun. It's fun to watch the Little League World Series winner. This game will play the winner of Connecticut and South Dakota Wednesday at 3:00.
Pitching duel right now. I mean, They both have been really good, and hopefully the boys from South Carolina can bring it home. But man, it's look, Nevada 0 hits. I mean, you're talking about South Carolina's put up 5 hits, just couldn't get any runs across. So it's a little frustrating from that standpoint, but it is what it is. It's Little League Baseball after all, right?
Speaking of frustration, Cole, that's what this segment is all about. This is your chance, Tolos, to vent that frustration. It's Overreaction Monday. You got something to say about something you saw in the sports world this weekend, or otherwise we'll let some outside conversation slip in. 844-326-3663. What have you got to say? Let's go to the phone lines right now and bring up everybody's favorite. Dewey joins Wire to Wire. Dewey, what do you have to overreact to today?
Yes, I need to overreact about the Atlanta Braves. Now, I know, Cole, you're not allowed to watch the Braves, but as you might know, they're 8-2 in their last 10. They done tore off, God, I think.
What, they tore off what?
10, 12 of their last 9 games. 5-game winning streak. Michael Harris all of a sudden knows how to play baseball. They climbed from 19 games below 500 to 12 below 500. The frustrating thing is every year they dig themselves in a hole and they try to get themselves out of it. But this year they dug themselves so far down that now they're trying to get themselves out of it, and they still their record still looks pathetic. The record right now is not dictating the way they're playing baseball. It's very unfortunate. It's very frustrating. And my reaction to this is, looking at the standings, every team above them is playing like crap right now. If that were to continue, there is an outside chance that the Braves might grab the last wild card spot, even though they're 10 back. But only 1 or 2 teams are playing 500 ball right now, in those 6 or 7 teams that are above them.
That's a good overreaction, Dewey. I like that.
Realistically, I don't see it happening, but 81-81 isn't out of the question.
But this segment's not for realistic takes. It's overreactions, sports overreactions, and that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, have you ever heard that saying, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, Dewey?
Yes. But if I was going to be unrealistic, they grab that last wild card spot and then they win the World Series.
No, that would be unrealistic. Correct. So Dewey understands the assignment. He understands what Overreaction Monday is on the Fan Upstate. That's a big overreaction.
Hey, we've all grown up watching the movie Major League. It can happen, right?
Well,
your team gets hot at the right time. They just need, a risque photo of the owner's wife and have little pieces of board they take off. And the more they win, the more they get to see.
I think they need more like angels in the outfield right now, more than they need
prayer.
Yeah, I mean anything, right? Oh. Miracles,
supernatural
angels.
help.
Yeah, I mean, they've won some games, but I still think they're. I still think this Braves team's dead. There's no shot. But good overreaction, Dewey. I like it. That's what Overreaction Monday is. You overreact to what you saw in the sports weekend. I will say, overreaction Monday lately, this summer has been tough. We've been overreacting about anything, but I think the overreaction Mondays are going to start to settle back in and become more natural now that football's almost back.
Cole, I'm going to overreact to the news that we started the show with, that the Carolina Panthers are being looked at as a real possible suitor for Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end from the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think that would be an absolutely idiotic move to go sign that guy. It would leave you with no money in the bank, no gas in the tank 2 to 3 years down the road. I'm looking at, the website called overthecap.com, where it tracks these teams' salary cap situations. This year, they got no money. Next year, they got no money. They're in the bottom half of the league. 2027, though, Cole, by then, they jump up into the top half of the league where they actually have some money available to spend. If you do it this year, you run yourself on an extremely thin shoestring budget, and I think it screws you for the long term. I think it would be turning your back on the strategy that's seen this team make incremental improvements for the last couple of seasons. Dan Morgan would prove that he is just Dave Tepper's lapdog who has to do whatever Dave Tepper says do.
To play devil's advocate, Diesel, I would say, sometimes when someone who has an alcohol addiction or a drug problem, goes in for help, they'll take their drugs away and then also take their financial resources away as well, so that they can't spend money the wrong way.
What did you hear about me?
Maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing if the Panthers were strapped for cash because the last time they had some flexibility, what'd they do? They did the wrong thing. And we all know that set the franchise back 3 to 4 to 5 years. Maybe you go sign Trey. You don't have any money, and once you do that, like you said, you'd put yourself strapped for cash. But if you're strapped for cash, you can't go to the liquor store and buy liquor that you don't need if you don't have the money. You can't go buy those drugs that you don't need if you don't have the drug money. Maybe that would be a good thing for the Panthers. Go get Trey. That way they don't have any salary cap for the next few years and they can't make any mistakes.
Spend your money so you can't afford to make bad decisions.
Yes, that's where we are. Yes, absolutely.
Here's a live update for you. Now we're in the bottom of the 7th. Irmo is in the field. Nevada's team is up to bat. They have runners on first and second with 2 outs, Cole. This is getting tight.
South Carolina.
This is getting tight.
Come on.
All it takes is a ground ball, though, to get out of this inning.
Get a little live TV feed. If it gets real tight, we'll throw up there for you because you said 2 outs. Is that what
2 outs, yep.
Oh, man. That's the – oh,
I know.
Hold on. Let's see. I might throw it up there.
There's a pop fly. Yep.
To go foul, Diesel?
Yeah, pop fly goes foul.
Oh.
If that ball stays in, that's an out at third base. And
let's get a strikeout right here. How about that? Let's get a strikeout to punch them out right here. Go to extra innings.
While we do that, let's go to the phone lines and bring in Danby. Danby's up first, who's got something to say on this overreaction Monday. Ooh. And, oh, no, we just saw the ball get through, and the right fielder bobbled the ball. Nevada takes the win.
How about that?
On a walk-off.
Oh, man.
Sorry to deliver that news to you over the phone, Dan, but welcome into the show.
All right, thanks. Now, you guys you see the graphic I sent you with regard to Josh Pate and his playoff prediction?
I did see it come through. Let me look at it here.
Yeah, so he posted this last night, and I don't watch his nightly whatever, and I'm sure it probably would have been worth it. Maybe he explained some things with regard to this, but when you go look in the comments, I mean, everybody's just – there's 2 blaring things there with Boise State and Nebraska making the playoffs. Are you like – wow. Where's your LSU?
And Florida,
where's your Oklahoma? Where's your Tennessee? Where's your Michigan? And then even your Illinois, Indiana's, SMU's, Ole Miss. Like, where in what world does Nebraska and Boise State make the playoffs? And you're right, with Florida too.
He's also got Ohio State in there as a 7 seed, with Penn State as the 1 seed, which means Penn State would have to beat Ohio State in the regular season and maybe again in the conference championship game.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, it's just nuts. Like, so I don't know if he went and explained this. And I'm in the camp of Josh Pate and Kelly Ford should be the commissioners of the NCAA.
Not anymore, though, right?
In charge. Well, I mean, this makes you wonder.
That's rough.
I don't know.
Is he trying to do like this bold, this bold prediction so he can come back? I told y'all I don't know. That's rough. Florida's not making it. Nebraska.
I mean, do you guys plan on talking to him in the next few weeks? As the season starts to roll,
we'll try.
Yeah, we'll try.
And
Josh is getting he's getting up there, man. He's
up. He's a rising star. I get
225,000 followers on Twitter. It's harder and harder every year to get that guy to say yes.
Yeah, I understand.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
That's interesting, though. Dan, I'll
like,
bring that back up later in the show. That's interesting. That's Josh Brackett there. It's a bold prediction, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
So, okay.
844-FAN-PHONE is the way you can overreact, Tolos, if you just get off work, overreact.
And early thank you, and you should all send your early thank yous, whether you text it in, call it in, or just kind of put it out there mentally into the world. Early thank yous to Dan B, because that guy does the majority of the work when it comes to the Upset Picks Challenge. We copy and paste all the messages that come in. Dan's the one who actually goes through and makes sure everybody's getting assigned the points that they deserve.
Yeah.
So he takes on the brunt of the work for this thing.
Joey on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says 100% agree. Diesel can't go buy groceries, starve to death. Is he talking about the Panthers there?
Not sure.
Joey, let us know. By the way, Irmo drops to the losers bracket and will play Hawaii tomorrow at 3 p.m. in the losers bracket.
Let's go to the phone lines again and bring on JD, who's got something to say, an overreaction for this Monday. What's on your mind, JD?
Hey, gentlemen, thank you for taking my call. My first overreaction today is going to be that NASCAR, the season is over. Football season, as soon as football season starts, NASCAR's over. NASCAR's over. Nobody cares about it anymore. I mean, nobody cares about it really anyways. But Cole, did you see that our other guy that won the race the other day, Austin Dillon, 28th in standings, and now he's in the playoff because he managed to win a race. What do you think about that?
Well, I like it better than somebody who's winning road courses consistently like SVG. So, I still don't love it. I know you and I talked about it before, but Austin Dillon can at least compete somewhat on a medium to large track, right? It's not like Shane Van Gisbergen where he gets on a big course, a big track rather, and he's completely irrelevant. At least Austin Dillon is relevant at some of those big tracks,
Yeah, I can see it that way. I was actually kind of the opposite on that.
Yeah.
I was more at least Shane Van Gisbergen is dominant on road courses, whereas Austin Dillon has just been complete trash most of the year. But yeah, you're right. He can compete on some of those 1.5 mile short tracks. It'll be interesting to see what happens between those two going forward.
And by the way, I think that's the same case for golf too. Golf, NASCAR, baseball, probably, unless the Braves are good. Football comes around, man, and everything else kind of falls by the wayside.
Right. Yeah. NASCAR season is over. And then my other overreaction is, y'all, I don't have enough popcorn. I do not have enough popcorn in my house to watch all of the drama that has happened on Twitter today. Y'all, Dan B, he just brought up Josh Pate. He and Chris Phillips had a huge blow up Twitter beef today. It wasn't even football related. And then Susan Lloyd, a photographer for Clemson football, she got thrown under the bus for having empathy for Ian Shefflin, who had his, unfortunate mishap with potentially driving under the influence. And I'm going to tell you guys now, if Twitter is anything like this during the football season, from what I've seen today on a Monday, random Monday, I'm going to have to get more popcorn so I can kick back and watch this stuff. Y'all be blessed, not stressed.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
I'll be honest with you. I haven't been on Twitter much at all today, so I hadn't seen it.
I am catching up live in real time.
Where is it at, by the way?
I just searched Chris Phillips on social media, and I found it's kind of hard, when you search for one thing, you find a tweet and then you kind of got to go backwards from there and see where it started.
I clicked on one and it said deleted.
Yeah. So I mean, they're going back and forth at each other. I don't want to try to comment on this live in real time. Number one, it's bad radio.
Yeah.
Number two, I don't want to be wrong about something.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what was said by either party. Now, both Chris and Josh have been on this station and have been on this show lots and lots of times. Every time we've had Chris Phillips on, he's been fantastic with us. Every time we've had Josh Pate on, he's been fantastic with us. I like both of those guys. So I'm not going to try to say anything negative or disparaging about either one of them because I would be doing so with just a tiny fraction of context of what was going on here.
Yeah, I'm just looking, like you said, kind of catching up in real time. And without really knowing the backstory, all I'll say is I think this is where Twitter and social media can become a cesspool, right? Just of like, this, that, and regardless, even if it's somebody else other than those two going at it, social media is good for a lot of things, but social media is also, it can be bad. And, that's why, like, I do enjoy social media. I do, but like if somebody comes at me on Twitter and says something derogatory or mean, I just ignore them. I could, like, for example, last year, I'll give you a great example. Last year, you remember, Diesel, the tweet that I put out about South Carolina fans leaving early at the Old Dominion game. Remember, it was hot and it rained, and that tweet didn't go viral. That tweet just went absolutely berserk, and I had South Carolina fans in my comments for 4 weeks after that. I mean, talking millions and millions and millions. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, just all kind of things. I just don't respond. Like, I just, to me, I find it easier. You know what? People are going to say, things, and I don't know who's right or wrong, but it's Twitter can sometimes be yucky.
Yeah, and look, it's a culture of tit for tat, right? How many people feel like they have to keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth at somebody because it's just what you do.
I just
can't
don't
let
care
somebody
enough.
else get the better. Yeah, Twitter is it's middle school and high school playground arguments played out for the world to see. People fan the flames. People share it to more and more other people by retweeting it and trying to get people. It's like seeing a fight go down in your middle school cafeteria, and everybody starts crowding around to see what people are going to say to each other. It's a cesspool, man, and it can be good for getting live information in real time, but it's also really bad when situations like this happen.
The only thing I can say is it'd be a good time for one of them to take the high road. Take the high road and let that thing die is all I can say.
Yes, it would.
Take the high road. Maybe Diesel, you can write a song about that since you're a music guy. I think that
just let AI do it.
Oh, yes, true.
I keep getting ads like every fifth thing I scroll past on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's somebody reacting to an AI voice singing a song that they love from the past.
I have seen that, yeah.
And I'm like, get out of it. And they all use the same stupid filter that makes it look like you're crying. They're not actually crying. All of it's fake, guys.
Thanks,
Why
AI.
are we supporting things that are fake? Stop it.
Thanks,
Stop it.
AI. Diesel, how about a little where are they now? I've got some college football coaches that you know who they are. And for most of them, you'll probably know where they are now. But our Tolos might not. They're coaching, but where are they now? That's next. Where are they now? Are they on the side of a milk carton? Well, no, not necessarily, Diesel. But you know what? Over time, you have names that we talk about, coaches that we talk about, that as time goes by, they just fall by the wayside, right? It happens. And it's happened to about 7 coaches. You know these coaches. I know these coaches. Most of our Tolos who are college football fans know these coaches. And if we have any college football experts that want to just see exactly how smart they are when it comes to college football, you can play along as well by calling in at 844-326-3663. I've got 7 coaches, Diesel. One of them, obviously, you know very well because he coaches your football team. But a little, where are they now? You ready?
Before we get going with that, I don't know if you saw earlier today, I saw this on Twitter, that Coach O wants back in coaching.
I did see that, and I'm all for it.
Ed Orgeron.
I'm for it.
I mean, give that guy a job in the Northeast.
Yep.
Make him be an Uber fish out of water. That would be a lot of fun. Obviously, you know, it would make sense for him to be a head coach somewhere in the Southeast, in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee type of team. I think that would be an absolute blast to see Coach O back. I know that we last week talked about John Gruden wanting back and maybe even coaching in the SEC. There was one more who we mentioned last week. We had a discussion about him, and I'm blanking on who that was now. Really wanted to get back into coaching. Do you remember who that was?
No.
I'll think of it.
All right. Where are they now? That is the segment, Tolos. If you want to play along again, phone lines are open, 844-FANFONE. Diesel, do you know where Derek Mason, former head football coach at Vandy? We all loved
Derek Mason.
Didn't we all love Derek Mason, right?
Yeah, it seemed like he was on an upward trajectory. You know, it's God, where is he? I'm gonna guess.
By the way, he was at Stanford before he was at Vandy.
Stanford.
And then he was an analyst or DC at Auburn. Then he went to Oklahoma State for a year, I believe. But where is Derek Mason now?
I'm going to guess that Derek Mason is a coordinator. Are all these guys head coaches or
head coaches?
They're all
head coaches.
Derek Mason. I'm going to guess that Derek Mason is somewhere out in the Mountain West.
He is the head football coach at Middle Tennessee.
Oh,
the head football coach of the Blue Raiders. Dewey in Where Are They Now says, where's Tom in Somerville? I don't think that's part of Where Are They Now.
He's at the Ice House.
That's right. So Derek Mason at Middle Tennessee.
Interesting.
Second season. They went 3-9 Diesel a season ago, but Derek Mason returned 7 starters offensively and 8 on the defense. This is his 9th year as a head coach. We all know him from Vandy, right?
Do you think it means a lot to have to be a G5 team, to have a somewhat disgraced in the sense that they lost their job because they weren't winning a lot.
Yeah. Head
coach from a former SEC program?
You know, I don't think, I mean, look where he was. You know, like, I mean, how many coaches could go to Vandy and can, I don't want to say like build a program, build something special, but my goodness, he was at Vandy. If he would have went to an Auburn or something like that as the head coach and had, you know, the same type of success, I'd say okay. But it was Vandy, so I'll give him a little bit of a pass. Diesel up next. Where are they now? We all remember this guy. And look, he's got a lot of experience. He's made a trip around the sun or two, and he has a very impressive resume. Pete Lembo. He started his coaching career at Lehigh, went to Elon, then Ball State, then Maryland, Rice, Memphis. We know him from South Carolina, right? In 2020, he was added to the coaching staff, and he was the special teams coordinator at South Carolina. And he is obviously no longer a South Carolina Gamecock, but that was his last stop. Where is Pete Lembo now?
Oh, I saw his name when we were researching earlier about the Upset Picks Challenge.
Okay.
I think Pete Lembo is at Western Kentucky.
It's a good guess, but you would be incorrect.
Is he at Sam Houston?
No.
I thought it was one of those two.
Pete Limbo is at Buffalo.
Oh, well, I guess I didn't see it when I was
Buffalo. Not the Bills, but the
oh,
what's their mascot?
Bulls.
The Bulls.
The
That's
Buffalo
right.
Bulls.
We've got the Buffalo
Well,
Bills and the Buffalo Bulls.
Real creative up there with their names.
Well, hey, we got this pro team. They're the Bills. What should we be? Be the Bulls. That's fine. Pete Limbo, he was a good coordinator. He was really good at South Carolina.
How many more bovine mascots can they come up with in that area?
Kidding. No kidding. All right, next one. Where are they now? Butch Jones, the former Tennessee Volunteer.
I know exactly where Butch Jones is. He is in Jonesboro, Arkansas with Arkansas State.
You would be correct. He is at Arkansas State. Fifth season there. Been there for quite some time now, right? Went
Champions of life.
That is. I forget about that.
Stupid thing to say.
He went 8-5 a season ago. They returned 5 starters on offense. They lost a lot on defense, though. They only returned 3 starters.
I do recall Butch Jones after the App State Tennessee game that went into overtime. Josh Dobbs, I'm still mad about that play.
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs fumbles on like the 2-yard line. It rolls forward into the end zone.
Yeah.
An offensive player, maybe a wide receiver, jumps on the ball, touchdown, game over. Butch Jones came over to the App State team while they were having their post-game meeting, powwow, prayer, whatever it is, and came over to this is still on the field.
Oh, I got you.
Not in the locker room, still on the field. Came over to congratulate him for playing a tough game.
Sure.
But and I was like, man, stay the hell out of our huddle.
Yeah.
He
was a weird guy.
Yeah.
So that's where Butch Jones is now. We all know another South Carolina Gamecock that coached with Pete Limbo, Dowell Loggins. He is now the head coach of Diesel's App State Mountaineers. Obvious one there, no surprise. And Dowell Loggins, confidence meter, 2 weeks away from the season. Diesel, where's it at? Your confidence meter.
6 out of 10. I'm not like super stoked on Dowell. We had a conversation. I don't remember if it was with Jack Veltri or one of our other Gamecock hosts or guests. I asked him about Dowell and the way he kind of behaved with the media.
Jack.
And asked hey, he's kind of twitchy and kind of weird behind the podium, and he falls back on his NFL experience and kind of name drops a ton. It makes you think, does this guy really know what he's talking about? Because he doesn't really talk about the game. He doesn't talk about theory or philosophy. He talks about all the guys that he's coached in the past. Yeah. So that right there gives me some pause. Look, I get that Dowell's a smart guy. You don't rise all the way to the level of a coordinator at an SEC team if you're a dummy. So, maybe he finds some success. I don't know.
Diesel,
I'm just not super confident.
Where are they now? Where is Bronco Mendenhall?
God, Bronco, he was at BYU, and then he was at Virginia for a while. Bronco Mendenhall.
He was also at New Mexico last year in the Mountain West. Yeah,
I believe. God, I was going to say he's in a Mountain West school.
Yeah.
Is he still in a Mountain West school?
Mm-hmm.
Bronco Mendenhall. I think. Is he at Wyoming?
No.
I don't know.
Utah State.
What?
Utah State first season. They went 4-8 a season ago, and they returned nobody.
The Utah State Aggies.
Yeah. They literally returned 2 starters offensively. So Bronco's starting over. Pony up there, Bronco.
That program is in a tough spot. They had Blake Anderson before that. Blake Anderson was a previous coach at Arkansas State. He was really good at Arkansas State. Had a really tough series of circumstances where I believe his son passed away, and I think his wife passed away, or his wife passed away, and then something else happened, and it was just rough going for Blake at Arkansas State. So he had to get the heck out of Dodge. He went over to Utah State, I think struggled for a couple of seasons, and just never could recapture the magic that he had in Jonesboro.
All right, 2 more. One being a name we all know and all remember from his time at Florida in Gainesville. I like this guy. I thought this was one of the better coaches that the Gators had. Dan Mullen. Where are they now? Where is Dan Mullen?
Well, Dan Mullen gets the distinction of being the Florida coach that didn't hug up to a shark. That was Jim McElwain.
Yeah.
Dan Mullen is at UNLV.
Yeah, we talked about UNLV earlier in the show. Why
he's
did
at
we talk?
UNLV.
Oh, because they're playing this weekend, right?
Right.
So Dan Mullen now at UNLV, first season. By the way, a season ago, UNLV Diesel was 11-3.
Yeah.
However, 2025 returning starters, offensively 3 and defensively 2.
That's one of those hirings that kind of has you scratching your head.
It kind of does, yeah.
Not that UNLV would want Dan Mullen. I get it. Dan Mullen was a good coach at Florida. Of course you would want to have Dan Mullen, but why did Dan Mullen choose to go to UNLV when he could have had some other pretty good jobs here on the East Coast?
Maybe he likes that
desert heat,
or the casino.
He likes to roll the dice, baby.
So we all know Trent Dilfer, last one. Excuse me. And where are they now? He played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was a standout at Fresno State, right? And then at Tampa Bay, he went from there to the Baltimore Ravens, to the Seattle Seahawks, to the Browns, and then 49ers. He retired in 2008. Trent Dilfer, a really, really good player. He had a great broadcasting career as well with NFL Network. He started coaching at the lower divisions in college, but where is Trent Dilfer now?
I don't.
This is the toughest one.
I don't have a clue.
You think it's tough?
I thought he was still coaching high school.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna guess that Trent Dilfer. I'm gonna think
I'll give you a hint in a second.
He's moving his way up the ladder, maybe at an American athletic school. Is he at an AC school?
You'd be right. You'd be right on that.
God, who in the AAC?
AAC, yeah.
Needs, or the AC now, because they took the athletic part out. It's just the American conference. Is he at what? I'm just going to throw out a guess.
Throw out one.
Rice?
Nope. He is at UAB.
Oh, UAB, the Blazers.
Trent Dilfer Diesel is in his third season at UAB. They went 3-9 a season ago. Not good. They returned 4 starters on both sides of the ball. And UAB, as we all know, they're not known for winning a lot of football games.
Do you remember when UAB shut their program down for a year and then they got the funding to bring it back? And they were really good because they got some sort of special waiver so that they could have like 40-year-old dudes out there playing against 18-year-olds.
Problem is UAB plays too tough of a schedule.
Yeah.
So they open with Alabama State. Then they go to Navy, which is a big loss.
Yep.
Akron, they might can win now. At Tennessee. Then they've got Army. Then they've got FAU. Then they've got Memphis, Memphis is always good. Then they're at Connecticut, at Rice, North Texas, USF, and Tulsa. So there you go. That is where are they now. Derek Mason at Middle Tennessee, Pete Limbo at Buffalo, Butch Jones at Arkansas State, Dow Loggins at App State, Bronco Mendenhall at Utah State, Dan Mullen at UNLV, and Trent Dilfer at UAB.
UAB plays, Cole, in a 47,000-seat stadium, which if you look at the pictures of it, doesn't look like it holds more than about 30. I mean, it's. You
said 47,000.
47,000.
I thought you would have said 4,700. Do that many people go to UAB football games?
I don't think they do.
There's no way. Right?
I give them credit. They have one of the most unique mascots in college football.
And that is, remind me?
The Blazers.
The Blazers.
It's a fire-breathing dragon, which is pretty cool, honestly.
The Blazers.
When there's like a million tigers and bulldogs and Aggies and Eagles, which are all boring and completely overused, be the Blazers, right?
Somebody texter on the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line says, Butch, that is. I don't know exactly what that texter is referring to. The amount of big name. Let's see. The amount of big name NFL players Butch Jones recruited compared to his lack of success coaching should tell you everything. He sucks. Butch, that is. That's a lot of words in one sentence.
So he's a great recruiter, not a great coach.
Sounds like that's
what you're trying to say there.
Yeah.
Okay.
One texter from the 502 said Jimbo Fisher. Well, we know Jimbo's.
That's who we were talking about was eyeing a return to college football.
Gotcha.
Thank you, texter.
I couldn't remember. I think this is Tom in Somerville. Let's see. Real quick.
Yeah, this is live radio
Tom,
here, folks. We're trying to find out who this is calling in live.
Hello.
Texter says, can't mention Derek Mason without referencing his hilarious anchor down post-game interview at Vandy. That comes from RJ.
Tom calls so much, I've started recognizing his number, Diesel. So we'll put Tom on the air real quick before we run to a break. Tom, are you, I know you're in Somerville, but Overreaction Monday was at 5. You're 42 minutes late.
I apologize, guys. I was out of town last couple of days and had to catch up on work.
Cell phones work everywhere, Tom.
Hey, I lost my voice.
I was going to say, man, you sound like you've been smoking.
No, I hadn't been smoking, but got together with some old college buddies, and man, my voice got shot. But
whoa. What'd you do? Why's your voice gone, Tom?
The town of St. Petersburg is a very fun place.
Well, at least we know Dewey will never get together with old college buddies because he didn't get that far in his education.
Hey, Dewey's a good guy. Hey, but y'all mentioned, can I give my upset pick this week yet?
No, Tom.
You know the rules. Wednesday at 4.
You moron. What are you thinking?
Oh, okay. My bad. Hey, and y'all mentioned one of the schools, so I'll give you a call Wednesday. I'll give it, and then the next Wednesday, I'm gonna be calling in. Y'all gonna be laughing all weekend at me, but next week when I call back, you're gonna call me a genius.
All right.
So, Tom, if you were the president of a decent football program playing university in the Southeast, and you had a job opening, would you rather have Jimbo Fisher or Ed Orgeron as your head coach? Both of these guys had some success, and both of them want to get back into coaching.
Oh, I'm taking Ed Orgeron all day long. He's a winner on the field, off the field, and he attracts the pretty ladies. Give me Ed Orgeron all day long.
There you go. Thanks Tom. When we come back, and since apparently Tom needs it, on the other side of the break, we will go back over the Upset Picks contest rules, which returns on Wednesday. A refresher for those of you who have played the game but just don't quite remember the rules. That's coming your way next. Just as we said earlier in the show that the Carolina Panthers should not go after Pro Bowl rusher Trey Hendrickson because they need to trust the process. I wonder if Cole is going to trust the process over the course of this season when it comes to the Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles. Because I remember last year, Cole, you flip-flopped. Mm-hmm. You waffled. You started with trying to go for the relatively easy hitters, the 7-pointers, the 10-pointers or less. And then you got deep into the season, like week 7, week 8, and said, you know what? I'm just going to call the big upsets, the 25, 35 pointers. Button. Right. But you shouldn't have. You should have trusted the process. And everybody has to have their own process, their own strategy when it comes to the wire-to-wire Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles, which, again, starts on Wednesday. We are less than 2 days away from seeing our text line flooded with upset picks. Can't wait. So a reminder for you Tolos who maybe have played a little bit in the past, or you Tolos who are just finding the show this year. We have a challenge that runs all season long, starting this Wednesday with quote-unquote week 0 of college football, the 4 college football games that are being played this weekend that actually have a spread on them. Your goal over the course of this season, every single week, is to pick a game where you think the betting underdog will win the game outright. They will upset the other team. You go on ESPN.com as of Wednesdays at 3:00. That's when the lines get locked in. You find a game that you think the underdog will win the game outright, and then you text us that game, your name, your game, and the spread. So you would text it in something to the effect of Cole Bryson, I'll take Sam Houston plus 12 over Western Kentucky. And that's it. You send your name, your game, and the spread during show hours, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We copy all of them down. We put them in a fancy spreadsheet. Dan B does all the mathematical work. And then he spits out the new rankings on like Monday, Tuesday of the following week. A lot of times he even does this from the road because, Dan is a pilot. He has real important things to do. None as important, though, as putting together the Upset Picks Challenge standings.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. Again, it's optimism. It's the same thing with coaches going into the season. That's why this time of year, regardless of what level, high school, college, or pro, it's the best time of the year. Everybody's undefeated. Everybody feels like they have a shot. Nobody's lost yet. Nobody, for the most part, got injured yet, got bruised, banged up. Everybody still has high hopes that we can make a run. That's where I am, and we'll just see how long those high hopes last. Because, like you said last year, I hit the panic button and I hit it, and I just never settled in. So hope to be better in 2020.
And see, I stuck with my process, and I finished inside the top 15, I think. Yeah. So I'm just saying, a process, a strategy, it works if you're willing to stick with it.
I think it's luck. I really do. I think it's like just throwing down. It does require some skill. It does.
Yeah.
But man, you've got to get. I know luck's not real to you and Rob Brown, but I do think it. I think it requires a little bit of luck, man. You got to be lucky sometimes.
So Tolos, we're looking forward to having you participate. I know we got a confirmation from Grayson Mann earlier in the show that he'll participate in the Upset Picks Challenge. So looking forward to it again. Wednesday, 3:00 lines get locked. Thursday, 4:00 you can text in, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday during show hours, get your picks in. And here we go. Are you ready, Cole?
Here we go. In. I hope you Tolos are ready as well, because there was a lot of audio from the sports weekend, a sports soundtrack. All of that audio coming at you next. So much audio from the sports world that happened over the weekend to get to. Well, you say, Cole, there wasn't a lot of sports out there. However, there's still some pretty good audio. We call it a sports soundtrack. It's a complete soundtrack for an entire segment that's only sports, and there's some pretty good stuff in this one, Diesel. I think the audio in this one from this weekend, while it may not have been like the best sports weekend ever, wait till you hear some of this audio. Some dumb questions by reporters, some dumb statements by radio and TV hosts. And that's where we're starting. Have you heard, and Tolos, if you hadn't heard this, you got to pull over off the side of the road, park your cars, do whatever you got to do. This is the craziest thing you'll ever hear in your life.
This is crash-worthy audio?
Oh, this is unbelievable.
Wow.
I heard this Friday night, Saturday morning for the first time and thought, you've got to be kidding me. So, Tolos, this is audio gold coming your way in this sports soundtrack. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Okay, there's a show on ESPN called First Take. We all know that. Stephen A. Smith's the host. However, occasionally there are fill-in hosts like what Molly Karam does. Diesel, do you know who Monica McNutt is?
Yeah, she's on ESPN.
She is.
She does a lot of basketball coverage.
Right. Yep, that's her.
Yeah. I mean, she's okay, I guess.
Okay, well, not anymore.
Oh, she's canceled.
So, yes. So Monica McNutt is sitting on the set across from Stephen A. Smith and the comedian Drewski. If you don't know who Drewski is, he's in all these commercials. He's popular worldwide, very famous. Drewski, Diesel, is sitting in a blue, again, this is very important, Tolos, if you're watching or listening at home, a blue Detroit Lions football jersey. All right? You can spot a jersey and tell what team it is, right? If it's silver and blue with stars on it, you're going to know it's Cowboy. If it's green and yellow, you're going to a silver and blue jersey. And he has it backwards. And on the front, at the top, it says Sanders. Okay?
Oof.
So I'm setting the tone here, setting the scene.
Is he a big fan of the 1980s hip-hop group Crisscross? Is he dressed backwards for a reason?
I don't know why the jersey's backwards, but it's got 20, the number 20, and Sanders across the top. Every sports fan in the United States of America and worldwide knows whose jersey that is.
Colonel Sanders.
Incorrect.
Carl Sanders.
You need to be Monica McNutt for a day because
Andy Sandberg.
Here is what Monica McNutt had to say. Bringing it in on First Take, sitting across from Drewski, who had on a blue jersey that said Sanders. You can't make this stuff up.
Blast for us to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so the jersey. Let's get into it because obviously this ties to one Shador Sanders who balled out in his first preseason game.
No. This is Barry Sanders.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Barry Sanders. But the tie, come
on. You gotta be kidding me.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Did she think that the comedian created a custom Shador Sanders jersey for the Lions, hoping that the Browns would cut him and that he would come to Detroit?
What is she thinking? She's not thinking.
Oh,
he
God.
had on a Barry Sanders jersey. And she said, one more time, I got to replay this. You can't make it up.
It's a blast for us to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so the jersey. Let's get into it because obviously this ties to one Shador Sanders who balled out in his first preseason game.
This is Barry Sanders.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
And she said obviously. She knew
obviously. The world is flat, so let's just not talk about it.
This is why people make fun of ESPN now. You used to have the Stuart Scotts of the world who we all loved Stuart Scott because they talked sports, right? It was highlights and sports. And now you've got Monica McNutt who doesn't know what a Barry Sanders jersey is. That's bad, right?
God.
Real bad.
I mean, I truly, Cole, I miss the days when SportsCenter was all there was on ESPN and it was an hour-long show and it was so good that they replayed it.
Yeah.
Starting at like 6 a.m. I think they filmed it live at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and they replayed it every hour on the hour until noon every day. They only had one network. They didn't have ESPN2 or ESPN News or ESPN Deportes. They didn't have any of that stuff. They had one channel to fill. And God, those days were so good because the best of the best talent. I mean, think about it. You only had maybe 5 or 6 hosts at that time. It was Stuart Scott.
Yeah.
It was Kenny Mayne. It was Dan Patrick. It was Keith Olbermann before he went to liberal talk radio and he got crazy. I mean, these guys were all really, really good at what they did, and you had to be the best of the best to get on the air. And
it's sad, man. That was
anybody
embarrassing.
can have a slip of the tongue.
Yeah,
but
good God, you're sitting across from somebody, and it's like, I mean, Diesel, that is the most obvious thing in the world. It's blue and silver and says Sanders. That is Barry Sanders.
Jerry says ESPN is joke.
He forgot the A.
Yeah, it's ESPN is a joke.
All right, so this is another Diesel
joke
to continue the sports soundtrack. There's a reporter out there on Twitter, and his handle is Daniel Shy, S-H-I. Daniel asked a question of Sam Pittman, the head football coach at Arkansas. He later came back, and in the tweet, Daniel said, "I messed up. I apologized to Sam afterwards, and he was kind when he didn't have to be. His reaction was more than fair. I wish I could have that moment back 1,000,000 times over, but that's life." So what is Daniel Shy talking about? What happened when he asked Sam Pittman this?
And then a lot of talk about, year 2 under Bobby. I guess maybe year 6 under you doesn't sound quite as exciting to the eye, but I guess have you learned anything that I guess, sorry.
Was there a question in there?
Yeah,
what the hell are we doing?
Sorry. I guess, is there anything new that you've learned about yourself that you're looking to take into this year? I guess I should just lead with that.
Oh, God.
Sam's face that you can't see is like, what is happening right now? What are we doing?
I mean, to be fair, when you've been as bad at Arkansas as Sam Pittman has, maybe you do need to be learning new tricks in the offseason to get yourself improved from year over year.
Yeah, it's been a little bad. That is true. Scotty did what Scotty does yesterday. Here's a couple of clips of how it sounded, Diesel. He took the lead and then won the dadgone thing, and then listen to this audio. By the way, when Scotty hits these shots, I think we make mistakes of just thinking like, oh, that's a good shot. Like some of these shots he hit yesterday were just, you don't make those 1 in 1,000. But Scotty does what Scotty does, and he does it consistently, and we just come to expect it to be normal. So here's what it sounded like.
Pure.
Turning one in from right to left. This could be good if it spins a little left.
How about a lot left? Another outstanding wedge shot from the fairway. Number 1 has sole possession of the lead.
So that's how he took the lead, and this is how he won the BMW championship.
Can you believe what you just saw? Bobby Mack can't.
Diesel, have you seen that shot where he won the championship?
I haven't.
Oh, my gosh.
I haven't. And see, that's the type of play-by-play I said golf needs more of, even in the first, second, and third rounds of tournaments. Rob Brown came after me and said that I was an idiot and that we don't need more of that elite level play-by-play call.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was one of those shots that you watch and you shake your head. You can't believe it. I just emailed you the clip. You cannot believe the shot that Scotty Scheffler had.
It's on
yesterday.
TikTok. I'm going to get a virus.
No, you're going to be fine. It is just absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, my.
Are you watching it in real time?
He chips from off the green.
Yeah.
And that ball rolls. God, that looks like it rolls every bit of 100 feet.
It rolls and rolls and rolls.
That's a long shot, and it's in the hole.
Is that
like
incredible?
Perfect pacing. It's not like he hit it a little bit strong and had to use the flag stick as sort of a backboard and keep that ball inside the cup. No, it was just dead on, accurate.
He's
perfect.
so good.
And he walks off without even a smile on his face.
He's just a killer, man. He's killer. He's so good. And like I say, we've just become so used to Scotty. He hits these shots, Diesel, and you just can't believe it.
And now all of a sudden, a Kenyan billionaire is messaging me and emailing me and say, hey, I've got some money I want to send your way. You're a long lost relative.
That's not a
Should
scam,
I click yes?
Yes. Scotty also, Diesel, after the tournament, really was caught off guard when a journalist mentioned Patrick Cantlay in a question. Again, this is today, for whatever reason, today of odd questions from media and reporters, and here's that audio.
The way we have it now, whoever wins the FedEx Cup next week, is that the season-long champion? Could be someone like Patrick Cantlay, for example, which not to dog on Patrick.
I mean, we're just gonna name guys now, dog. I mean, my goodness.
Is that thing on?
Test really. No, I think. Yeah, no, I think when you look at the FedEx Cup, I think it's a greater discussion. And like, if you're gonna have a true season-long race, like a truly the best player every year wins, it's odds are it's not going to come to that interesting of a conclusion in most years.
So not to throw Patrick Cantlay under the bus or anything, but could it be a guy like Patrick Cantlay who's not any good but gets out at the right time? I mean, the reporter throwing his name out there.
I mean, here's
the question.
I think what we should do is we should have in-season tournaments, and we should have ways to qualify. You win a tournament, you get into a playoff.
Yeah,
how about that?
That's right. So Scotty was later sharing his honest thoughts on PGA Tour's now FedEx or new FedEx Cup finale format.
You look at, I'm not going to name names, Doug. Can't wait. But you look at seasons like some players have without winning and making it to the FedEx Cup final. I mean, that's a really good year. And I think it's extremely hard to win out here on tour. And I think a lot of times the media is always looking for something more. We're looking for a perfect finish to the year. I mean, look at what Liv is doing with their final tournament. I mean, I tried to read about it the other day. I still can't figure out what they're trying to do with the final tournament. It's not easy to figure out a true season-long race. And I think when you're looking for an interesting finish to the year, I think we got it down pretty good where you have 25, 30 weeks to prove yourself to get into the Tour Championship, and then it's game on.
It is interesting. You peak early in golf early in the year like Rory did, and now you're nowhere to be found, come late in the season. It is about getting hot at the right time. But Scotty, he hadn't had to get hot, Diesel. He's just Mr. Consistent. He's good every week. It's really impressive. Here's one more final clip of audio talking about his normal caddy, Ted Scott.
Ted's obviously where he needs to be, but weird to not have Ted in kind of those big moments and down the stretch like he's always been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely different for sure. But Crummy was doing a great job. He's a guy that I can trust. He's one of Ted's good buddies, and I just say it's pretty much as simple as that. Crummy's a guy that works hard. He does his prep work, and he was an easy guy for me to trust out there. And I felt like we did a good job of talking through our shots and staying patient and keep doing the right things. Even when things were looking a little bit squirrely there on the back nine, we did a good job of staying focused and continue to hit shots at the right targets and, close the tournament out nicely.
So he doesn't have his normal caddy. No big deal. Just goes out and wins the tournament. Doesn't Scotty Diesel seem like one of those guys that could just carry his own bag? No big deal. I'll carry my own. I'll still beat your butt,
Golf caddies are, they number one, they have to be physical workhorses because they got to carry a heavy golf bag around. They have to play the course a couple of times leading up to a tournament so that they can get ranges and distances and figure out how greens move. I mean, these guys are all really good golfers in their own right? It's not like you, for example, last year you were like, hey, Charlie, can I caddy for you at the BMW Charity Pro-Am? It's more than just picking up the bag and handing him the club that he asks for. It's your job to think critically and make decisions. And at the same time, you got to keep your guy pumped up when he's getting a little bit down. You got to keep him grounded when he's getting a little too high. So it's like being a psychologist and a pack mule at the same time.
Speaking of psychologists, I don't know if a psychologist could figure out the quarterback room in Cleveland and what to make of that. But, boy, did Dillon Gabriel drop a bar, I guess, make headlines, make waves in a mid-game interview over the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's just part of it. You know, there's entertainers and there's competitors, and I totally understand that. And my job is to compete, and that's what I'm focused on doing. Of course, we're doing this mid-game, but you know, it's something that I'll get used to, and just want to be the best team that I can and create an environment where we can all go do our best work. That's all we want to do.
Now, who possibly could Dillon Gabriel be talking about?
Shots fired.
Surely
right?
not his own teammate, right?
I just want to be
Sanders?
the best teammate I can be. And by the way, screw Shedeur Sanders.
I'm not an entertainer. I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to be a quarterback. That's interesting. By the way, I talked about this in the 4 o'clock segment, Diesel. Jackson Dart was really good over the weekend. Like, to the point where he might be QB2 behind Russell Wilson. Here is what he had to say post-game after his first game at MetLife.
You know, going out there, warm-ups, and just seeing, you know, the stadium before it got filled up, and then, you know, feeling the energy of the crowd come in. And, you know, I was happy with, you know, how many more Giants fans there were. I mean, I know it was a home game, but I was happy about that. So, you know, hopefully we can just continue to bring a lot of energy, you know, bring home a lot of wins and get everybody excited about the season.
I'll tell you what, I could be dead wrong, but I'm starting to buy this Jackson Dart hype train. I really am. Like, he was good at Ole Miss, broke Eli Manning's records. We all know how good he was there. But he's in New York. New York stinks.
Tough place to win.
It's tough. But maybe, just maybe, is he good enough? Is he good enough to maybe elevate them?
But at the same time, it was just a preseason game. Just as you say, don't get too low on the Panthers for being terrible in a preseason game. Don't get too high on Jackson Dart for showing out against 2s and 3s.
So I'll say this. I get more high on individual performances in preseason than I do on team outcomes. I could care less about a team outcome. If I see a guy go out there and ball out, yes, it is preseason, but I do see some promise with Jackson Dart. I really do. Will it pan out? Maybe not. Look, like you said, New York, the Giants, they've been bad for a while. It's a tough place to win.
If you were the Browns brass and you had to cut one, Dillon or Shedeur today, who would you cut?
Only one?
You have to cut one.
I'd cut Dillon Gabriel.
Woo.
Yeah.
So you'd rather have an entertainer.
I just think I think he showed a lot of promise in that first game. And, yeah, give me an entertainer.
All right.
Give me an entertainer,
There you go. That's a bold choice, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him. When we come back, Cole, let's jump back into our conversation earlier with Grayson Mann of TigerNet.com. He joined us to talk all things Clemson as they prepare for LSU in week 1. We'll bring that back to you next.
Jackson Dart now.